Good evening, everyone. Would you join us in a salute to the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2017 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2016, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Ms. Adams? Here. Mrs. Larrier? Mr. Lembrick?
Here. Good night, CC. Here.
Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7 provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas desire this governing body to comply with the provisions of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in deliberations of the governing body by the public, except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions, discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings. So moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 7th meeting of the Maplewood Township Committee. I'm going to run through the agenda real quick. We're going to start off with two proclamations. The first is Arbor Day, and the second is Women's History Month. And then we're going to make appointments to two committees. One is the Recreation Advisory Committee, and the other is the Green Team. Then we'll have our first public comment session. If anyone would like to speak to the Township Committee, we'll ask you to come up here, give us your name and address, and share what you'd like with us. Would ask that anyone who wants to speak about the leaf blower issue, hold off, and we'll have you come up and speak later on. But we're not going to do as expansive as last time. So we've heard a lot of comments already, so we don't need repetition. But anyway, let's consolidate the leaf blower conversation once we get to the discussion item. So the first public comment, if you want to come up and speak about something other than leaf blowers, that would be the time. Then we're going to have a presentation to the governing body by Robert Boneberg on the Slave-Free Community Project. And then we'll have our monthly Board of Health meeting. After that, we're going to be introducing two new ordinances. One is we're going to modify the no turn on red on Baker and Valley. And the second is we're going to introduce some amendments to the rental registration ordinance that we have. Then we have 10 discussion items. Leaf blower ban is the first one. And then we're going to talk about a proposed ordinance for pods. Those are those containers that people have on their property. Then we're going to be discussing the capital budget. We're talking about pricing changes for the Woodland and the Bergdorf. We'll talk about the 2017 pool season, proposed fees, and use of pool parking lot currently now by NJ Transit in Avalon Bay. Boards and committees, we're going to be talking about some changes to the appointment process, limiting appointments to one board and committee, and then also the process for selecting chairs of these boards and committees. We're going to be talking about the report from the Finance Committee. We're talking about our operating budget, the sewer fee for 2017, and the Moody's annual review. Talking about joining Sustainable Jersey, an application for a solar grant. We are going to consider engaging a professional planner to amend the redevelopment Area 2 plan to permit assisted living, adult daycare services, and medical offices. And then we're going to be talking about parking regulations for a new parking lot we have, parking lot 11, which is 1848-52 Springfield Avenue. Then we'll have our consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have a resolution to award a contract for hauling and disposing of leaves, a resolution opposing heavier and longer trucks, a contract extension for recycling. We'll be passing a temporary emergency budget, authorizing tax refunds of tax overpayments, approving bills and claims, and minutes of previous meetings. We'll have our second public comment period. We'll have administrative reports from elected officials, and then we will adjourn. Before we get into the proclamations, just a point of personal privilege. A couple of Sundays ago, we had the chili cook-off, first annual chili cook-off, and we got these hats. And I just want to report that I won the chili eating contest, beating my colleague Frank McGee. I ate 4 bowls of chili, he ate 3. And we're still suffering, believe me. But, yeah, we're here to talk about it. So, but it was a great event. By the way, Frank, the thing that they gave me, they had a broken top, so it's not all that great. But we're actually going to have the cauldron from the chili cook-off is going to be placed here in Town Hall. And it'll be a year, it'll be like the Stanley Cup. Year after year, they'll hold it out and bring it to a chili. So it was a great event. They raised $5,000 for the Red Party, which helps children and families who are facing hunger issues in our 2 towns. So it was really great. Okay, here's the quick proclamation on Arbor Day. And we do it sitting down here, but as our town, we've talked a lot, and actually we budgeted extra this year to do planting of trees. So plants and trees are very important, as are parks and green space in town. So whereas in 1872, Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas the holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and that whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, and that in our township, it increases property values, enhances the economic vitality of business areas, and beautifies our community. Now, therefore, I, Victor DeLuca, Mayor of the Township of Maplewood, do hereby proclaim April 28th as Arbor Day in the Township of Maplewood, and I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And I further urge all citizens to plant and care for trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Here for Arbor Day. And next we have Women's History Month. And Deputy Mayor Nancy Adams is going to do that. And if all the women in the audience would like to join Ms. Adams, that would be nice. We try to do that as a show of solidarity.
Let's stand in solidarity. I wore my red.
Particularly, you wore red for...
Just stay not too close to me because I'm not well.
So all the women...
Oh, this is kind of cool,
It's very cool.
like marching. Welcome, everybody. 2017 Women's History Month. Whereas for more than 2 centuries, our nation has grown under a simple creed that each of us is created equal. It is a notion that makes America unlike any other place on earth, a country where no matter where you come from or what you look like, you can go as far as your talents will take you. And whereas Women's History Month is a time to remember those who fought to make that freedom as real for our daughters as for our sons. Written on the promise of the franchise, they were women who reached up to close the gap between America and what it could be. They were driven by a faith that our union could extend true equality to every citizen willing to claim it. Year after year, visionary women met and marched and mobilized to prove what should have been self-evident. They grew a meeting at Senegal Falls into a movement that touched every community and took on our highest institutions. And after decades of slow, steady, extraordinary progress, women have written equal opportunity into the law again and again, giving generations of girls a future worthy of their potential. And whereas that legacy of the change is all around us, women are nearly half of our nation's workforce and more than half of our college graduates. But even now, too many women feel the weight of discrimination on their shoulders. They face a pay gap or higher premiums for health insurance or inadequate options for family leave. These issues affect all of us, and failing to address them holds our country back. And whereas our history shows that when we couple grit and ingenuity with our beliefs, there is no barrier we cannot overcome. We can stay true to our founding creed that in America, all things should be possible for all people. That spirit is what called our mothers and grandmothers to fight for a world where no wall or ceiling could keep their daughters from their dreams. Although we still have much to do, and we need more women running for office to make our opportunities brighter, we recognize the accomplishments of women who fought for our rights in the past and pledge to them to keep advocating for equality. Now, therefore, on behalf of Mayor Victor Luca, we do hereby proclaim March 2017 as Women's History Month in the Township of Maplewood.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Roger. Okay, next up is we have appointments to boards and committees. Mr. McGee, would you introduce and welcome up for introduction our 2 appointees?
That'd be my pleasure, Mr. Mayor. May I ask Brandon Idling and Hans Hummel to come up, please? If you could just introduce yourself to the committee, your address, and tell the committee and the body here a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor DeLuca and the honorable members of the Township Committee. My name is Brandon Edling. I live at 19 William Street here in Maplewood. My wife, 2 boys, and I moved to Maplewood almost 4 years ago. We're from Kansas, and for better or for worse, New Jersey is not like Kansas. We were looking for a progressive community that encouraged close-knit family and friends, someplace where you could say hello to people that you passed on the street, a place with good schools and great public spaces. Very happy to say that we found all of that in Maplewood. I was excited that with Mr. McKeehee about the opening on Maplewood's Recreation Advisory Committee. Our 2 boys are 6 and 5. It's been lots and lots of times at parks and public spaces, and it's exciting to think of working to advance an already great system that my family and friends enjoy to serve what we consider to be our new hometown. So thank you for this.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Name is Hans Hummel. I live at 19 Gerard Place in Maplewood. We moved here in 2000 without kids. We hadn't had any kids yet, but now we have 3 kids. in the high school, the middle school, and Tuscan. I'm here to join the Green Team Advisory Committee. I think it's important that we continue to focus on these environmental issues and continuous improvement for the town, addressing, many of the issues that, concern climate change and so on. Obviously, we can't affect everything around the globe, but we can do a lot of things locally to improve things. And especially now with the pressure that the new administration is placing on many of these environmental regulations and protections. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McGee, do you want to make a motion?
I sure would. I'd like to make a motion that Mr. Hummel as well as Mr. Edling be appointed to their respective committees.
Second. Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. Congratulations. Okay, next up, we're going to have our first public comment session. If anyone would like to address the Township Committee on other than leaf blower issue? Yes. And you still have to say who you are and where you live again.
Hans Hummel, Maplewood, 19 Gerard Place. I was commenting on the pool parking lot. I drove by at about 5:45 p.m. this afternoon, and there were roughly 50 cars, give or take, in the lot. There were definitely a mix of, Avalon contractors, New Jersey, the New Jersey Transit people, and also residents down in the apartments. I think it's critical that Maplewood residents and pool members get priority this summer over the Avalon construction workers, especially now that the construction has been delayed, and also New Jersey Transit. I think, there's going to be serious crowding this summer at the pool. And it was always a concern when I was on the pool advisory committee. Also, I think there's been a lot of wear and tear in the parking lot from the Avalon construction equipment. There was some heavy equipment in the lot this afternoon, and there have been many, afternoons where there are multiple trucks in the lot. So just something to consider. Thank you.
So just so, we're going to talk about that, and all the agreements we have expire before pool starts.
Okay.
And the second thing with Avalon Bay, we've made them aware of any that they can use it, but any damage they cause, they're going to have to repair. We did pave that front section, as you probably know. We've taken pictures, and anything that we see has to be repaired, they're going to take care of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee?
Well, my name is Coleman Smith. I'm actually from Mendham, and this is,
Monica Mangan from Maplewood.
okay, so Monica's been here 23 years. She's on 43 Donnell Road, but we recently got engaged, and we put a deposit on the Claris. We went to go sign the lease the other day, and they initially told us there's going to be 2 parking spots, one inside the garage and one outside the back. Then we went back and they said, oops, sorry, we found out that there isn't. And they gave us a little map of the lots in the town, 2 hours, 4 hours. There was one 24-hour lot, and Monica went to Ms. Fritzen today and spoke a little bit about it, but we're just trying to get the lay of the land before we sign the lease, because we have 2 cars and we have to get to work. Mm-hmm. And so for what we understand, there's a woodland lot, and it has how many spaces?
We were told we were originally told when we went to sign the lease that there were 13 spots available to Claris residents. And then when I went to the town hall today, I was told there are 19 spots at the woodland, and there are only 4 available, and there are none allocated specifically to Claris residents.
Right.
So this greatly affects our decision about moving to this place that we are so excited about moving into. I've lived in this town for 23 years, and just feel like maybe our hands are tied here.
So, first off, congratulations on your engagement.
Yay.
What they told you at the Claris is wrong. They have no other parking other than the one spot in the bottom of the building.
Per unit.
Per unit.
Per
Right.
unit. We do have overnight parking that is available. It's a first come, first served basis for people who are in the village. And that's what you heard.
That's
Now,
like, when you say that first come, first served, it's like via certificate for the period of time that you rent it for? Is that what you?
no, it's an annual. It's annual,
Okay.
thing, annual.
Right,
So
but our issue is, like, the Claris, they said, we want to be available to you in June, but there's no guarantee, so we can't start paying for this extra spot in June if in fact it's going to be September before we can actually move in there.
Right,
And we can't sign a lease without
Parking.
right.
knowing that we have a second parking spot.
Well, maybe the Claris should pay for the spot
Yes.
in the
Well, we
Woodlands.
suggested
Yeah.
that, and they said, no, everybody
Well,
wants to move
what's
into the
what's the fee
Claris.
for the year? $50 a month?
Okay, it's a 24-hour parking is $100 a month, and currently we have 4 available.
Right.
And it fluctuates.
Right,
But
so,
that's 4 available now, so
Right.
who's to say, like, in June or August or whenever the Claris is actually available? Like,
Right.
there's so many uncertainties, and, this is our life,
Right.
it's like, it's our,
Right.
The planning board.
Mrs. Fritzen,
Yeah.
would they even be eligible at this point because they aren't in the village to rent one of those?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Anybody
so-
can.
Okay, gotcha.
but can we commit now in March to some
So you can,
unknown?
it sounds like you can either get a 24-hour permit now and just pay it monthly, and then
But
when
we
you.
don't want to spend $100
Well, I don't blame you.
I don't blame you.
6 months.
I just wanted to find out if that was even an option.
Is
Yeah.
it
Not
possible
saying
to
it's a
like
good option.
commit for 1 year or 2 years, give you the money, and then just say effective of, the lease date or the occupancy date, it starts then? Is that possible?
I mean, it's crazy because like we can't sign this lease
Right.
on this huge uncertainty.
I think you should consider getting something now and holding that. I know it's incremental
Yeah.
cost because there's a town of 24,700
Bird in the
people.
hand,
and,
right?
Well,
you
Ms.
know,
Fritzen, what is the typical availability of the 24-hour permits? Are they, do you typically have 4 available, or? is it-
Normally, we do not have 4 available. It fluctuates.
Okay.
It's
So-
basically residents who are moving into the apartments on Maplewood Ave, so that fluctuates as well. And we have people that are, I would have to say, are long-term, that
Commuters,
park there
like,
long-term. We've had them for years. And then we have people that are come and go per month. They don't stay. They make other arrangements. It's unusual right now that in March, I would have 4 available.
You're usually sold out.
Well, we normally have a waiting list of maybe 2 or 3 people.
these are also available to commercial.
Right.
So we have like, the florist takes a number of them.
Well, we have a florist that has probably, I would say, 4.
Okay.
And then
All
there's
right,
some
so-
people.
But this is obviously new to, the Claris is new to the
Everyone,
town.
yeah.
And right, all of you. Is there any option of having a designated number of?
No.
No.
No, because it
There-
cuts out the
there's-
rest of the residents. But some people use those spaces, the 24-hour space for when they get home later than, a typical commuter permit works, or they go in later and they need to,
Right.
so they're utilized, but I don't know.
Another
I
option,
would talk with Ms. Fritzen and get her advice as to what,
Sounds like, yeah.
or,
Yeah.
or see if somebody, a friend in town might let you use their driveway for a little bit until you get there.
What's the situation where you are now? Is there any room to park in case you're not a tenant there?
No, I mean, I'm currently renting right
Right.
now, and I have like a 1-car driveway, and I have too many cars
Yeah.
using my neighbor's driveway,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and,
Well, I would give a tongue
Yeah.
lashing to the broker who told you that, for one.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, I think that Woodland lot was a misunderstanding between us.
Mhm.
I think she just said there's X number of slots and it's first come, first served. And
Mhm.
I don't know that she did mean for the
Okay.
Claris. But anyway,
Yeah.
all right.
They have no other spots other than the ones that are in the building.
Right.
there is 1 spot per unit
Right.
in that
Yeah,
building.
that's it.
Yeah.
And that's what their planning board approval is.
Yeah.
And any additional overflow would have to deal with the same way any other tenant in the village would have to deal with. And that's to try to find, we have some spots available. And the reason we don't create more is because most of that lot we're trying to reserve for shopper parking.
And events of the Woodland.
Right, so about a third of the parking there is this 24-hour parking, which is, we try to keep 2/3 available for the daily parking.
But that will obviously affect their ability to rent.
Maybe. So the concept is that they're right next to a train station, so most of their
Right.
tenants would be one-car
Right.
people.
Yeah, it's just
They-
unfortunate because like,
Yeah.
we love Maplewood and we would
Right.
love to stay in.
A couple of things. I know when I used to rent or own a condo, I needed 2 parking spaces. And so the person who owned the condo next to me, I would sublease his space. That's an option. The second option is there's another rental property called the Station House. And maybe they're not fully occupied. You can contact that realtor and see if there's
Yeah,
a
but
space
that's-
there too.
Same thing. It's like one spot per.
Well, if they're not fully occupied, maybe they'd be willing to do something with you. I'm just trying to give you some options to
Yeah.
help you out.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, super.
Thanks very
Thanks
much.
for your time.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee? I just want to recognize our liaison to Essex County, Jeanette Page Hawkins. Last meeting, we asked you to set up the meeting with the engineer. You've done that. I want to just thank you for that. We haven't gotten the date, but we're in the process of our engineer contacting your engineer. We'll have our engineer contact your engineer and set something up, but we're on the process of doing that, so we can talk about that. So thank you for following up
Thank you
on
for
it.
that.
Anyone else? Okay, we're going to close the first public comment period, and we're going to have next is a presentation on the slave-free community project. If you'd introduce yourself and for the record so that we have you there.
This part I'm sure of. My name is Bob Bohnberg. I live at 43 Madison Avenue in Maplewood, and I'm the coordinator of the Slave Free Community Project. We're a grassroots local organization, and our purpose of our organization is to eradicate the effects of modern slavery from the communities that our coordinating committee lives in, which is Maplewood, South Orange, Milburn, and Short Hills. As you may be aware, there's a significant problem with slavery around the world. Approximately, depending on who's doing the estimates, 45 million people enslaved around the world, which is more in raw numbers than any time before in human history. We're seeking to approach slavery from the local end, which is how do we eradicate the effects of modern slavery from our communities? So the question would be, what would be the effects of modern slavery in our communities? And we see at least 2 different types of effects that come immediately to mind. One would, of course, be the presence of slaves, people who are trafficked would be another term within these 4 communities. Another possible effect are slave-made goods, which have found their ways into international chains of commerce. For example, and you may hear about this, in electronic goods. If people, and I imagine most people here own a cell phone, they may own a computer. Computers are made up of various elements, part of which are held together with little tiny flecks of gold. Where does the gold come from? Is the gold mined by slaves somewhere in Africa, South America, or otherwise? Another product, chocolate. There's tremendous problems with forced labor in the Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, or in Ghana with respect to the harvesting of chocolate. So we're approaching the issue from a community standpoint. How do we develop awareness? How do we develop programs to eradicate those effects from our community, or to ensure that slavery doesn't exist? So from a township point of view, from a government point of view, you have a government that functions perhaps with 2 huge wings. One wing, of course, is your governmental functions, like a police department. And so we would hope that the police are fully trained, they're fully aware, they're able to engage with slavery if they see it. We're able to help the victims if they see it. That would be one kind of side of it. The other side would be government, and by the way, when I'm using township government, I'm setting aside the Board of Ed for today's discussion. The other side is the government buys things. Your police wear clothes, I think, generally. Uniforms, where do they come from? I mean, presumably you don't have a cotton field somewhere where you're making your own uniforms. Where does your cotton come from? Where do your computers come from? Do you ask that question? So if I had a box of fairy dust with me, and I could say the township committee, would be the perfect thing that you could do. One thing I perhaps in the slavery community project would like to see is the committee resolve to become a slave-free town, and then and also to think about what would that mean in terms of how we function. What would that mean in terms of the function of our various departments, the police department, the health department, the building department, where they're considering actively, how do we know, how can we be certain there's no slavery, and how do we address it? And also on the purchasing side, can we do something? Is that a particular lens that we can bring to purchasing? Now, I understand that all governments have controls, regulations, which govern your purchasing. Within that structure, and let's set aside the idea the structure may need to be changed, what could you do? And so that's, I think, thank you very much for permitting me to speak, but I hope this is the beginning of a dialogue that we can have with respect to what we believe is a very serious issue and that we would like to try to address at the community level. So maybe I can try to answer any questions that you may have.
Ms. Adams?
Yes, I just, does your group have lists or like specific companies or products that are made in those areas that we should look out for so that you can make it easy on the local government to make those purchases informed? And if we can make changes?
Well, the short and direct answer to your question is we can provide you with identified types of products. Thing is, when you talk about gold, let's use gold, and people are concerned about gold being in supply chains. And the amount of gold in a cell phone are tiny little micrograms used for whatever purposes they use gold. To trace that gold back, that particular gold back, and you buy your cell phone from Mr. Samson or whoever it is. I'm confident Mr. Samson doesn't have a gold mine. Mr. Samson probably doesn't even build his own phones. He gets it from somebody, gets it from somebody, who gets it from somebody else. And so the question is, when you deal with the end of the supply chain, what I think we're maybe trying to say to them is, Mr. Samson, how do you know? Because probably the odds that in any particular cell phone that there's slave-made goods in it are tiny. But what we think we need is to have Mr. Samsung and Mr. whomever it is, Mr. Apple, and all of them together working to go back to their sources to say, how do you know? How can you be certain? And so that's the kind of the concept behind what we're trying to do. So we go to, we work with the consumers in Maplewood. One of the things we want people to do is go, when they buy their cell phones, they buy their computers, so that the question keeps going back, and we want Mr. Samsung to say, yeah, come back to us and say, yes, I know that there's no slavery in my cell phone, and this is how I know, because I know where my gold ultimately comes from, and that gold is not problematic. But we can certainly talk to you and talk to whomever would be appropriate about what products there are. If we were, and if we're with the Board of Ed, there'd be another whole raft of products. Certainly we can do that. But to identify the companies, would be the companies that are dealing with it. Clothing, whatever.
There must be best companies that have adopted best practices, who have looked at their supply chain, have proven that it's slave-free. So is there a list of those companies? It might be a small list.
the answer to your first part before you take down the end, best practices, yes. Companies that can certify they're slave-free, maybe in some industries for some products, certainly in food products, because they may go a fair trade route. When you start talking about a more fungible product like cotton, like gold, like tin, it becomes more problematic without going to the bottom of their supply line. So do some have best practices? Yes. Can we provide those to you in different areas? Yes. Can they certify that they're slave-free? No.
When we talked, I mentioned to you, we're under some significant constraints because we have to go for lowest responsible bidders. We also belong to a number of co-ops and the state buying plan. That if there's a product that we want that's on that list, we buy it because it's a negotiated cheap price. And so we have limited ability to screen out firms or producers.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that we can't have a role or we can't play a role in even being an advocate and working our way up the chain of decision-making in the state to see if there's a way we can influence some of that.
And I think that's very fair comment. We don't see this as an immediate solution. I don't think we're in a few months or even hopefully within a few years, we might be able to say we're Maplewood, which might be the first in this country. I know they did it in Nottingham. It's a slave-free community, Nottingham in England. It is a slave-free community, and we're certain of that, and this is how we know. It'll take some time, it'll take some years, take some thought, take some discussion. I agree exactly with what you said. How tight your constraints are, how they can be amended, what a responsible bidder is. Those are all fair issues. And of course, that's the huge issue in supply chains, because the consumers across the country are usually looking for cheapest. And how do you get the cheapest? Well, you can cut your labor cost to zero. You can certainly sell a cheaper product.
Anybody have just one other comment? We have had instances of prostitution in town where we do believe that there may have been some sex trade, human trafficking there. So we have been pretty aggressive in dealing with those. So that's something we have talked about and are aware of, and our police have been have worked on that with the prosecutor and worked on those angles to try to, and we've been able to close a couple of shops down. So.
Thank you. It's a complex issue, and to get to the end, in hopefully in this generation, we can say when our grandchildren say to us, "What is slavery?" we can say it ended. But it is a complex issue with a lot of moving parts, and it'll take a lot of effort and a lot of thought and a lot of goodwill to end it. So thank you for letting me come and.
Yeah, I think if you can provide us with some kind of suggested resolution, which we might entertain, I think that would be something we can take a look at.
I will do that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have our monthly Board of Health meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2017 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2016, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk. Mr. Adams? Here. Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Mr. Lembrick?
Here.
Mr. McGee?
Here.
Mrs. Larry? Here. Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7 provides that the Board of Health has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting. And whereas desire the Maplewood Board of Health to comply with the provisions of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Maplewood Board of Health and the Township of Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in deliberations of the Board of Health by the public, and except as otherwise described by law, does limit the public to the observations and actions and discussions of Board of Health at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes, thank you, and welcome to the March Board of Health meeting. You have all minutes. Can I get a motion?
I move the minutes of February 7th.
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes, thank you. Report, please.
I went to a meeting this month. It was sponsored by the Rutgers Medical School Drug and Alcohol Research Section. And it was actually a very hopeful meeting they had. There's a new class of drugs that they can use to treat opioid addiction, which would be heroin and OxyContin. And their results are that with using this new drug, which they call a partial antagonist, and psychotherapy, and sometimes getting the person out of the bad environment, their success rate in preventing relapse has been over 75%. So to me, that sounds like a really high number because I just never knew before when, people just keep relapsing. So I think that's a very hopeful direction of research in drugs. They emphasize that it's a long-term thing, just like if you treat diabetes, you don't treat it for a week, you treat it for years and maybe lifelong. So that's the way they said they need to look at some of these opioid addictions, where you would continue with some medication and treatment. It was a little better than methadone in terms of long-term treatment, less side effects and better outcomes. So I just thought I'd open on that hopeful note. It was really enlightening to hear that, especially in light of the opioid problem that we're having in the United States now. We're having some good health education meetings tomorrow at the Senior Club meeting. They're having a meeting discussion about Alzheimer's. And then on March 20th, we also have at Winchester, we're having another meeting on Alzheimer's. And then I want to emphasize that March 28th is Diabetes Alert Day. And we're going to try to do a lot of advertising to alert people who maybe don't know whether they might have a diabetes problem or not to get tested and to fight this disease, which is really devastating so much of America now. And diabetes, of course, leads to many other illnesses, heart and many other illnesses. So the more people that get tested and are aware of the problem and are taking care of it, the better. Finally, I was listening to the discussion about the gold and the slavery. I know with clothing items, they're international watchdogs about in a lot of the Asian clothing factories. And, I don't think any of them are great, but some are much worse than others. And that some of the clothing manufacturers have adopted that they will only buy their clothing from the better ones, who treat their workers fair and who have better work conditions. So I can't help but think, I wonder if there's international watchdog organizations that do look at things like mining and gold and precious metal recovery, whether it's treating the workers badly or causing excessive pollution. So I don't know if those exist, but I didn't hear the gentleman talk about it, so I just thought I'd bring it up as a possibility of a way to find out where we can go on this. That's my report.
Yes, thank you for following up on something I asked about a while back, was the summer lunch program.
Yes.
And I know you contacted them, and Ms. Mancuso sent out an email late in the day about, she also was in touch with someone. So I think there is an interest on her part to see that our camp, we can get something there. So hopefully you'll work with her. I think the idea of us being a subcontractor or an annex to one of the other larger providers is a good idea, as opposed to us taking it on ourselves. But I do think that this is an issue. When we've talked to folks at the library, they say that the kids who are there from right after school till, the early evening waiting for their parents, there's a hunger issue there. They're hungry. And so some of this after school and certainly the summer food program things, I think we ought to take a look at. So I just want to thank you for taking that step and doing that.
Okay, we'll follow up on it to try to get it in progress.
Good. And then the other thing is, I spoke to you about this already, but I just want to put it on the record. At our last Township Committee meeting, we had a resident come and talk about the dog biting and the policy of euthanasia of dogs or seizure of dogs that are threatening to a neighborhood. And she brought up two dogs that existed maybe 2 blocks from one another. In one instance, the dog was immediately taken, the one on Tuscan Street. And the second instance on Hilton Ave, the dog was allowed to stay there, and people in the neighborhood were very afraid. So I think we have to have a little more coherent policy as to how to move forward. I know there were extenuating circumstances in the Hilton, but nevertheless, there were people there who were very nervous, the neighbors.
Right, okay, I understand. We do have laws we have to follow, so, it's not something, we have to make sure we follow the laws, and we did in both cases.
Okay. We just have to, I think what we're going to try to, if this comes up again, I think we want to make sure that we're following the law as quickly as possible. I know in this instance, there was some resistance from the homeowner in giving up the dog, and it took a couple of court cases and what have you. We probably could have, even within the confines of the law, gone a little faster there.
And as a matter of fact, we have another case this month, which is scheduled to be heard in court next week. So sometimes these things come in bunches, and I think that's happening right now.
Okay.
And so we're pursuing this to the full extent.
Any other questions for Mr. Rowe?
I actually have a statement. Further conversation about the lunch, which is a good program. I actually have a committee that I've organized almost a year ago now that consists of several leaders in town, including Chris Dixon from the Rent Party, the HSA from the MS Middle School, as well as Kate Cahill runs the MIN program, and other constituents, Father Jim Worth, who's over at St. Joe's Parish. And what they're doing is actually addressing the need of the children in the library. Sarah Lester's part of my committee as well. It's a side project that I do. So I think I'm going to get you involved in that now, Mr. Rowe. We've been actually subsidizing the Cougar store, which is where the kids purchase goods just to kind of subsidize their meal issue. I've also tried to get YouthNet and the Hub involved as well. We do recognize that's an issue. I recognize it personally and set up a committee of those constituents. And so we'll get you involved as well in this program.
Okay. One of the sponsor programs is the Food Bank of New Jersey in Hillside, and I think St. Joe's uses their resource with MEND.
One of the things that
so maybe we already have a connection, we didn't realize it.
Maybe so. What's been happening is the parishioners of St. Joseph's Parish have been actually providing and donating after services in the back of the church, and co-presidents of the HSA have been going picking up those particular donations and bringing them to the middle school. And then through the leadership of the principal at the Maplewood Middle School, she has been, discreetly been able to identify those youth, provide them with incremental Cougar cash so that they can subsequently get food to enhance their nourishment during those periods of need, which is when they are subsequently a lot of times at the library after school hours until the library closes.
Okay, yeah, I'd be glad to work on that.
Love to have you.
Other questions? At this point, we'll come to our public comment segment. Is there anyone who would like to come and address the Board of Health? Please come speak clearly into the microphone. Tell us who you are and where you live.
Okay, good evening. My name is Claire Roberts, and I live at 78 Woodside Road in Maplewood. And I actually wanted to refer to something that was discussed at last month's Board of Health. I have really two questions. One, I wondered, is there any news on the proposal that is coming from South Orange to share the ACO and to go in with the Livingston Animal Shelter for sheltering services? That's my first question. But then my next question, and I want to refer back to a conversation that I had with Mr. McGahee some weeks ago at his office hours, where he very kindly spent some time with me and one of my colleagues talking about the issue. And I asked if he would visit both the Livingston Animal Shelter and St. Hubert's before he made a decision on the issue, because I think that is the best way to get a sense of what our money as a town is going to go to. And you can see the vast difference between these two facilities. So I just wanted to ask, I know that all of you have very busy schedules, but if you could take the time to visit each of these places, I think it would be an invaluable thing in finding out what is the best thing for our township. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, yes, just to answer you, as a matter of fact, Mr. Manning and myself just even today, just this evening, discussed our actually going out to Livingston, look at that facility. I actually have been to St. Hubert, so I know what that facility is like. As far as the proposal, we have not received a proposal from South Orange yet. We are still waiting for that proposal. We will be asking them to convene a meeting, Mr. Manning, myself, Bro, and I'm missing somebody.
Desiderio.
And Mr. Desiderio, thank you. The four of us will be inviting them to a meeting sometime within the next 2 weeks, mostly because we feel as though we need to push this process along a little bit. So we will be doing that. And then, like I mentioned, Mr. Manning and I will be going out to Livingston. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the Board of Health? Being no one, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Adams? Yes. Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mrs. Laurier? Yes.
Okay, we're back on the main agenda, and we have introduction of two ordinances. First one,
Yes, Mayor, item number 11, introduction of new ordinance. Ordinance number 2848-17. An ordinance to modify the no turn on red on Baker Street at its intersection with Valley Street. This ordinance will modify the restriction of no turn on red on Baker Street at Valley Street by limiting the restriction to 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily.
yes, Adams.
Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on its first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on, what month is this?
21st.
March 21st.
Second, you want to talk about this a little bit?
Sure. This came up actually while I was running for office a couple years ago, and once upon a time, and for most of the time that, since the state allowed turning on red, stop and then turn on red, the corner of Baker and Valley was a right turn on red permitted, and then a few years back, it became no turn on red, and has caused some difficulties with traffic congestion on Baker. We are going to study this further, but for now, our engineer agreed that we could limit the restriction to 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., meaning after 8 p.m. and through the night when you're coming back from wherever you've been, you don't have to wait at a long light when there's no traffic on Valley Street to turn. So that's what this is about.
Great. Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Louerier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
No.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Can we have another ordinance on introduction?
Mr. Mayor, item number 12, introduction of new ordinance, ordinance 2849-17, is an ordinance to amend Chapter 209 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Rental Properties. This ordinance will define family and senior citizens as used within the provisions of the rental registration requirements and will specifically set forth penalties for violations.
Larry?
Mr. Mayor, I move this passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on March 21st.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Ms. Desideri, this is just a clarification of definitions with this family.
Yeah, there had been some confusion by the building department and registration, and they asked for some clarification, so this will clear up those issues.
Great. Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Louerier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. Okay, we have 10 discussion items. The first is the leaf blower ban. And I'm going to ask anyone who wants to come up and make some comments about that in just a moment. You can sit tight for a minute. I thought it would be useful, before we heard your comments, to just go right down the line and see where people are at, if they have any questions up here, so that we're, kind of getting this decision closer. So since
You want to go point?
I'll go first since I'm the one who's bringing it up. So of the proposal items, let me tell you, and I want to thank everyone. First off, we received a lot of comments at our last meeting, and a lot of people here. I want to thank you for that. We also received emails from people supporting it. We've received emails. These are residents who support the idea. That we've received emails against it from residents. And then subsequent to the meeting, we've received 3 or 4 different proposals from individual landscapers and also from a couple of associations. So we've had a lot to look at, and I thought it would just be helpful to let all of us say what we're thinking, and if someone could go out there and see who's out there and maybe move them. Thank you, Mr. Desiderio. And then we can sort of frame it where you can see where we're at, and then when you come up and speak to us, at least you know where we're going, so it's not just a wide open slate here. So one thing I wanted to just make sure we're all on the same page is that I went on our own DPW website and saw that we start collecting leaves on October 16th. So I think this has to do with when the ban is going to be in place. The proposal is to have the ban from May 15th to October 15th. I'm okay on the first part of it, the May 15th. I think the October 15th is a little long. I would like to see that pushed back closer to October 1st or September 30th.
I don't see October 16th on here at all.
It's up on the top. First thing, beginning the week of October 16th, leaf piles will be
But then
collected.
none of the schedules below.
No, it says here, beginning the week of October 16th, leaf piles will be collected in all sections until regular selection
okay.
collections begin.
Right, because there's not that many leaves falling.
Right, they just go around and pick stuff up
In
that
case
are
there's
out there,
stuff.
right. There've been some proposals to allow one leaf blower during that period, and I do not agree with that. I think leaf blowers should be banned between May 15th and whatever, I would say September 30th. I have a question about paving contractors, tree contractors, and gutter removers. And so I just want to, that's a question for me. And quite honestly, I legally had a tree removed. I had my permit and watched the debris that gets created when you remove a tree. And I'm not sure how they would have been able to clean it up without a leaf blower. I don't support the limitation on blowers outside of that period, because we have some very big lots, and I don't think we can limit the number of a piece of equipment out there. I just think that, they're not going to use more equipment than they need, and I just think that limiting it to 2 or 3 is just picking a number. I agree with the restrictive hours. I do think the Sundays, we have to permit Sunday for residents because, as I read this, the residents could still, and I would favor residents being allowed to use leaf blowers, but it says here that they would have to follow these hours, and I think there are people who observe religious services on Saturdays that would not be able to do their leaf collection, and so Sundays, I think, I would allow that, where it says Sundays, no permitted hours.
For residents.
For residents, yeah. Not for any landscapers. Right now, the requirement is 7 days in the street. You can't have it for more than 7 days. I agree with this, so I think that's fine. The workers wearing safety equipment, I absolutely agree with. I think there's a good question of who's responsible. Is it the owner or the worker? Who gets the fine or who gets the warning? One landscaper suggested we give out warnings. I'm not sure how you track that, but I do think we ought to say that you have to have these safety things. I would say the fine should be, 500, 1,000, and 1,500. Mr. Desiderio, we usually have like 3 categories, and then does it go to the judge after that, or usually 3 strikes, people get the idea not to do it anymore?
Yeah, what basically we've done is, there's a limitation on what the maximum fine is. The maximum fine for any one violation is $2,000.
Okay.
So basically, we've stepped them, whatever you want, 1, 2, and 3, and when we say usually 3 or any subsequent violation is the same.
Okay, well, that's how I would do it, 5, 1,000, 1,500. Just going back to the Sunday, I would do the hours for residents, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then I did think there's needs to be an emergency waiver because we have hurricanes in the summer, we have storms in the summer, and also I think it was good. We've had things like mosquitoes and I don't know if there's a need to move things and things like that. So there may be something we need to put in here that someone can declare an emergency, whether it's the township administrator or the health officer or something like that. So that's where I am. I think we absolutely should do it. Oh, one procedural thing is, I would suggest we do this by resolution at the next meeting, because otherwise it has to be by ordinance, and we're not going to get this wrapped up until April. By end of April. If we did it by next meeting, we would have it done before April. So,
And resolution,
same thing, it's just that we'd have to do it every year. We can pass the ordinance later on, but I'm just concerned now that it's going to be, before it gets printed, it's going to be somewhere around mid-April, and people are...
I think it's pretty well known though, Mayor, and I don't know if I.
Okay, well, I'm just suggesting...
Visit this every year.
Just a procedural question. If we put it on for first reading
21st.
on March 21st, couldn't we have it for final reading?
April, whatever, 4th or whatever that is, but then it has to be like 10 days after that, it has to be published, right? It's usually some period after that?
Yes, it's
Yes,
published
it
the
would be-
following Thursday.
Following.
So it would be like the 6th, April 6th?
No, the 6 plus the 13th.
It'll be mid-April.
So it'll be mid-April,
month
so that's the thing,
early.
April 1st versus I'm just thinking the 15 days helps people get a little, when they're signing contracts, that's all. But it doesn't matter, either way we could go. The bottom line is we could still institute it, and then we could institute it and then pass an ordinance after. But that's the other way to do it. So that's where I am. Do you want to?
All right, so my notes, there's some similarities here and some differences. From a timing perspective, I like to see Memorial Day to September 15th, so truncating on both sides. I think that's the peak time when people are enjoying.
Memorial Day, September.
Memorial Day to September 15th. In terms of the restriction on the number of leaf blowers, I'm okay with that particular point. Restriction of hours, I also agree with the mayor that we should have Sundays available for our residents as well. I would actually truncate the hours on Saturday, though. I'd make it 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. versus the 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
For Sunday or Saturday?
For Saturday and Sunday, actually. And then I'm cool with the fines. I think those are fine and appropriate. My biggest concern, just through all the emails and documentation I've read, is just really our enforcement. I'm just making sure that we are able to really enforce the ban, and inclusive of, obviously, safety equipment. I think that's going to be one of the challenges that we're going to face. But those are my key points here, just the timing, just also the hours as well.
Larry?
Yeah. There are, of course, I have some similarities. I would agree that there should be safety equipment that has to be used. I would not be in favor of anything that would penalize the homeowner if their contractors are not wearing safety equipment, especially when you think about the fact that one contractor can do 6 homes on the block, so all 6 of those homes have to pay the fine. I don't think I would agree with that. So I would say the fine should be, I agree with the level of fine, but absolutely the burden should be upon the contractor itself. As far as the dates, I agree with Mr. McGehee. I think Memorial Day to September 15th is adequate. I think I would possibly go to the end of September, but I certainly wouldn't go into October. I believe Saturday and Sunday time should be 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. I'm thinking of hot summer days when by 11 sometimes it can be pretty hot for some older homeowners or even younger complaining teenagers. So I would like to see it a little earlier, like 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. I like the idea of doing it by resolution. I actually don't mind revisiting it every year. And I do believe that during that time, there should be a total ban. There should be no landscaping companies using the leaf blowers. However, I am not in favor of extending that ban to contractors. I didn't even think about the debris from the trees. I was thinking actually, people don't get their gutters cleaned every week. So I don't see the same problem with a gutter cleaner using a blower. So I would not necessarily penalize other contractors or other types of contractors because we have this problem with landscapers. And I think that is end of.
Mr. Lambert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Towards the end of the discussion last time, he's saving the best for last. I discussed what I thought were 5 areas of general consensus and 4 areas that were sort of contested, and I guess that's how I've been thinking of it, so I'll go through those and I think sort of hit all the points that my colleagues have discussed. Higher fines for violating the ordinance. I think, whatever the ordinance turns out to be, there was a great deal of consensus, even among the people who would potentially be subject to the fines, the landscapers, that whatever the ordinance should be, the penalty should be serious and should be enforced. So what the mayor laid out of 500, 1,000, 1,500, I think something like that would really send a message and would provide a deterrent. So I'm in favor of that. Requirements for workers to wear safety equipment. I do think there's consensus there. The issue of who should be fined, maybe I misheard, or maybe there's just a misunderstanding. But I thought the issue was not so much homeowner versus contractor, but would it be the individual employee who gets the citation because he or she wasn't wearing the equipment, assuming that it was provided? Or would it be the the contractor or the landscaper, the company. I mean, as between the two, I guess I'm sort of indifferent. I could see it working either way. I think that finding the individual, then it becomes an issue between that employee and the employer. If it goes to the employer, I think it's still an issue between the employee and the employer. So, I mean, either way, I think, I think we're going to accomplish our objective. More limited hours, generally, I agree with, and I certainly think that there should be no commercial use on Sunday, and that was actually something where there was consensus, even among the landscapers that the committee or the subcommittee spoke with, that, with the allowance for sort of an emergency exception that could be made either by the Director of Public Works or through the mayor's office, however we decide to do that, that generally Sundays were not necessary for the commercial landscapers. All leaves being placed in the street no more than 7 days before the scheduled town pickup, I think that's, that's obviously something that we should make sure is not only in place but also enforced. And I think the fines we have for violating the ordinance should also apply to violations of that, or we may want to make a different fine structure, but we should have fines for violation of that portion of the new ordinance or resolution, and no ban on the use of electric and battery-powered blowers. It seems like at this point we have consensus that we're really just talking about the gas-powered blowers. In terms of the more contested issues, I am in favor of a total ban over the summer. I think that, as Mr. McGehee and Mrs. Larrier have said, I think something like Memorial Day to September 15th or September 30th, something like that seems to me a little bit more reasonable than starting it earlier in May or going deep into October. But at the end of the day, I can't see myself voting for or against the ordinance based on a week or so in either direction. Commercial versus everyone is sort of the second contested issue that I identified. I think the rules, if we're going to go against leaf blowers here and say that they're causing both noise pollution and environmental damage, that we should be going after them for everyone. And if they're banned during the summer, then they're banned during the summer. And I don't support drawing a distinction between residents and commercial users. However, I am open to the idea that certain commercial uses may be more necessary and also more irregular, if that's the right word. As the mayor mentioned, sort of having a tree that has to come down, that may be an exception. That being said, to reiterate what I said last time, I'm not going to let the perfect be the enemy of the good, and I'm not going to vote against what I think is a good proposal overall, just because I disagree with that aspect. So if we decide to just regulate commercial use and not do it for residents, that won't be a reason for me to vote against it. I just want to go on record as saying I would prefer that what we do for one, we do for all. I don't support during the periods that wouldn't be in the summer ban limiting the number of blowers per property, I think for the reasons that several others have mentioned. I think I already sort of talked about the timing of the ban, sort of thinking that Memorial Day to sometime in September is probably a more reasonable time period to restrict, and I think that sort of takes me through all of the issues we've been talking about, and that's where I am, and I think there's some of these that I'm pretty flexible on, but overall do support the idea of of a ban during the summer, and I think that'll lead to greater ability for us to enforce it, particularly with higher fines, and also getting the word out.
Ms. Adams, do you want to say anything?
No.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
Ms. Adams, she doesn't really care.
Not an important issue to me at all. No, I first and foremost want to thank my colleagues for considering this and sitting through hours and hours and more tonight and more in the next couple of meetings of opinions, because it was, when I brought this up, I really didn't think it would be as controversial as it ended up. So that said, we have hashed through a lot of this. So obviously, I'm in favor of an annual summer ban on commercial two-stroke engine leaf blowers, or gas-powered leaf blowers. I think it should be for all. I think it should be, I prefer May 15th through October 15th, but I could maybe be okay with Memorial Day, but I think it should at least go through September. As those of us who actually believe in climate change, we've seen hot Septembers all the way through. Leaves, according to our public works officer and the schedule laid out, don't really start falling until mid to late October, and even later. They're actually having to collect them later in the year because they're not falling as soon as they used to fall. So I don't want to start having leaf blowers blowing nothing just because of an arbitrary date. So I would still like it to go through October 15th, but I would probably be okay with September 30th for now. I agree with Mr. Lembrick in that I would like to see all gas-powered leaf blowers banned during the summer for all commercial businesses and residents, but I don't think we have necessarily the support for that. But I would extend it to all different commercial users, not just lawn maintenance companies. Typically, the gutter cleaning, to use Ms. Larry's example, is in the spring and the fall is cleanup. I think trees were removed with all the debris long before leaf blowers, so there must be a way to clean that up. So I would have all contractors not be permitted to use them. As far as limiting the number of blowers, while there are some larger properties, last fall, right after we met with one of the landscaping company owners, 2 days later, I got literally blown out of my home office by 4 leaf blowers in one bed of bushes at one time, and plus the mower. And I literally stopped what I was doing and ran around the corner and found him and said, really, this is what makes everybody so upset. He literally just met with us, heard our concerns, and then 2 days later, you're using 4 leaf blowers in 4 bushes because it was fall, and he had to do it as fast as possible, regardless of the effect on the neighbors. So I would restrict it. If you want, I would be willing to look at restricting it based on the size of the property, whether by square footage or, 50 by 150, but I think it's a problem to have several at one time. It literally does blow people out of their home offices and wakes a lot of the little babies up as well. I agree with the more restricted hours, obviously, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I might consider moving that to 5 p.m., but I'd be willing to go to 6. Saturdays, I agree with Mr. McGehee, it's 10 to 4. Sundays, 11 to 5 for residents only and no commercial. Obviously, the leaves 7 days ahead. I think it would go a long way if the lawn maintenance companies didn't, and we heard testimony from a couple of them who admitted that the reason they mow every week in the summer, even though it hasn't rained and the grass hasn't grown, and even though there's no leaves falling, they're still blowing, or even though the collection date, they know the collection. I understand having to jiggle the schedules a little bit, but when you know the day after or that you're in a section of town the day after they just picked up, and you're blowing leaves, and they're not going to be picked up for another 2 weeks, that's a problem. So I'd like to see fines for that and it enforced. But it would save a lot of issues with neighbors who complain that they just cleaned up their yard and then the lawn maintenance company comes the next day after the pickup's been and blows their neighbor's stuff all over, and then that blows back in their yard. It happens, and these are real issues. And I know some neighbors who aren't even speaking to each other as a result of such an issue. So as far as the safety equipment for both hearing and breathing, I strongly believe in that. I know that, and I would like the fine to be levied on the contractor so he can deal with it, he or she can deal with it with their employee and make sure their employee is following those rules, because a lot of these employees may not be aware of what they're breathing in, what damage they're doing to themselves. So I'd like whereas I believe the owner of the company more than likely understands those hazards to what they're breathing, what's going into their lungs through their respiratory, and what damage is being done to their hearing 8 hours a day. So the dramatically increased fines. I think there can be an emergency exemption for leaf blowers, like the mayor mentioned, for storms and so on. I think that can easily be put out there without any problem enforcing. And what else? Oh, I would like, and this can come up again, but I really encourage the Green Team and Environmental Commission to start educating the public, for those in the public who think this is a non-issue, to think this is something of a nanny state, or that there's no problem with these, and don't we have more important things to do? I mean, we hear all this stuff. We've gotten emails, name called even, but I think it's important. One of the reasons it's thought of as not that important an issue is because of lack of understanding of what the issues are, and they're very extensive. So the reason I don't support 65 decibel is like everyone else has said, it's been proven to be very difficult to enforce, and even when it's existing, it's not followed by the lawn maintenance companies, so that's all I think. Vicki?
Yeah, Ms. Adams, just one question. That you mentioned the Green Team. I like to recognize the Green Team. They are definitely in support of this
right
potential ordinance. I don't know what we're calling it at this point, but also they're even working on a pilot program called the Rake Finder, which is something to help mitigate the issue when you don't have a leaf blower, if you want to get your driveway swept or something like that. So they're working on it. It's a pilot right now.
Yep,
and we'll hear
great.
more about that shortly.
Yeah, and I'd be willing to provide information if there's a pamphlet or something, a link on the website that we can point people to, is like even a bullet point of why this is an issue, why these are a problem for our environment, for our soil, for our air, for our water, what the issues are. Because it's not just they're noisy and they're annoying. They are literally destroying our properties with hurricane force winds blowing out every ounce of nutrients and topsoil off of our lawns. So, yeah, I'd gladly give lots of information.
Yeah, I know that the website's under development for the Rake Finder, and also that, there's an event on Thursday. There's an opportunity to talk about
I know. I hope I'm not still sick.
Okay, so we're going to invite anybody who wants to come up and say something. So just so that so where this is floating right now, it looks like Memorial Day has got a little more support right now. It looks like we're either talking about September 15th or 30th. There'll be a total ban. I think most people here were talking about a total ban, so the proposals to use only one handheld during that time is not going forward. It seems like more people are interested in commercial and not including residential, and almost all of us agreed to the higher level of fines of like 500, 1,000, 1,500. And then the Sunday with some restrictions which are tighter and tightening up the Saturday. And so that's where we are right now. And if you want to come up and make a comment, give us your name and address. And we're going to limit everybody again to 3 minutes. So.
Hi, Ed Reichman, 51 Park Road. I'd like to see you ban leaf blowers entirely, as Mrs. Adams pointed out, for all the reasons that you've mentioned.
Thank you.
I agree with you. I've been using a leaf sweeper, which is a mechanical push thing for like 10 years. It's great. It cleans up all the leaves, no problem. You don't have noise. It's environmentally friendly. If you can't ban it, I understand, the positions you laid out seem reasonable, a reasonable compromise. One thing I'd like you to consider that it doesn't seem that you have is there are a lot of people who work at home, on being one of them.
More and more.
More and more, right? From May, when the weather's nice, until the end of, the beginning of October, I should say. The weather's nice. We'd like to work outside. Even if we don't like to work outside, the windows are open. When those things go off, you cannot hear yourself think. You can't have a conference call. I think just because people are off during, take their vacations during the summer does not necessarily mean that that's the only time people want to enjoy the outside. I'd like you to consider the fact that, people work at home, people want to enjoy the outside before the summer starts. I say when the weather's nice at the beginning of May, I think would be a better target until, as you said, if you're not going to allow people to blow leaves until 1 week before the collection, and the collection doesn't start until the 15th of October, it seems to me that your natural target date would be October 7th, I suppose. So that would be the beginning or the end of the period. But I would like to see a May 1st start of this, so at least residents can enjoy the outside before the summer starts, and when the weather's really nice and people can enjoy it before it gets swelteringly hot, and they're more inclined to be outside. As far as the hours, I think that's the hours you suggested are relatively okay with me. It'd be great if we could see 11, maybe 12 on a weekend, so that people could enjoy a nice quiet morning outside reading the paper or something before the cacophony starts. But I understand you have to make some compromises. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I apologize. I have some laryngitis, but I wanted to be here. Joe Gluck, 78 Kendall Avenue. I also work at home, and I have, listening to everybody speak tonight on the panel, I thought of a wonderful solution to the whole problem. If you will only let the lawn service people who work on the weekends have them blast all weekend, that would take care of the problem immediately. But in lieu of that, I came to a meeting last August, and it turned out there was no meeting. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to thank the Township Committee for the pleasant summer. You should recognize that it was so nice to be able to work in my front yard, work in my backyard, go for a walk, sometimes read out in the front of the house. And I hope to do that again in the future. And the second point is, I don't know if you noticed this in the Star Ledger last month, but there's a little script here. I'm going to read one short paragraph. It says, a report, everyday noises cut hearing. 40 million adults have lost some hearing because of noise. And half of them suffer the damage outside the workplace, from everyday exposure to leaf blowers, rock concerts, and other loud sounds. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported on Tuesday. Then I heard that, to me, this is the worst rationale for using them at all, is that it will save the customers money. And it's hard for me to believe that there are a lot of people in Maplewood who, if they knew how unpleasant it was for their neighbors, they would say, that's all right, I'm saving money. That's hard for me to believe. The last point I want to make, if you don't mind, I'm going to draw up a little analogy. I want to work in my front yard, so I bring out my boom box and I play music. Doesn't make any difference what kind of music. It could be rock or jazz, classical, rap. And I'm not conscious of the fact of whether my neighbors are annoyed or not. I'm enjoying the music. And then I go in the backyard. I attach some amplifiers to the boom box, and the only way you could possibly get near my house is to have those ear protectors. Now, I'm sure that I would get a visit from the local police for disturbing the peace. But that's not why I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it because it's wrong. It's just the wrong thing to do. And I'm hoping that you people will make it right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tracy Woods. I lived at 253 Burnett Avenue here in Maplewood. And I just want to say that I support the proposal as it was originally proposed, but like Ms. Adams, I would be satisfied with the Memorial Day to the end of September. One thing I didn't know about that I learned about tonight was the discussion about the fine going to the company or to the worker. Having been in manufacturing where some fines do go to the worker, I really feel strongly that it should go to the company because, the workers, that fines at that level could be devastating. And it's really up to the employer to manage that, in my thinking. The other thing is, I'm also the chair of the Maplewood Green Team, and a lot of people feel like I'm a good place to voice their how they feel about the ban. I get a lot of contact with people about this. And I have had some people who were upset about it, but the overwhelming response has been happiness. And really a lot of support for what's been happening with the ban, and a lot of support for the prolonged period too. And the other thing I wanted to say as the chair of the Green Team, that we actually have several things that the Green Team is doing has in the works for the upcoming months to support alternatives to leaf blowing, including a strong educational piece about mulching mowers. And if you're not familiar with them, they're electronic mowers, and contractors have a version of them too, where they mulch the leaves into little tiny pieces that go right into the grass, and therefore solve all manner of problem about this. And they're affordable for home mowers too, and they work really great. And I would recommend people who are really concerned about the leaves on their lawns look into either asking their contractor about mulching mowers or purchasing one for their home mowing use, because it's a really great way to get around the problem entirely.
And it keeps you from having to buy as many fertilizers or other things to put on your yard. It always amazes me, so we take everything off, and then we go out and buy stuff to put on to replace the stuff we took off.
Yeah, one of the most popular on the ReYard website, which is the gardening branch of the Green Team's website, one of the most popular shots is of Annette De Palma, who works with the township, using an electric mower, and she just mows over this giant pile of leaves, and they're just gone. And they're in there enriching the soil, but she was shocked at how easily they just disseminated the leaves into nothingness.
Save money on DPW pickup too.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy.
Hi, how are you? I'm Lillian Hawkins. I live at 18 Franklin Place in Maplewood, and I'm a supporter of the ban on leaf blowers. In line with what she was saying about the mulching mower, I've actually heard that there's some interesting research that the decaying leaves improve the soil health, which actually can pull carbon out of the air, which is something really cool. But I'm a mother of 2 little kids. I have an 8-month-old and a 3-year-old, and I'm home all day with them. I'm also a registered nurse, although I'm not working currently. But I'm really aware of both the noise and the health effects of the leaf blowers because of that. So, and you mentioned most of what my concerns are. I would just like to speak about the dates. I would really favor a May 1st start because as the first gentleman who spoke said, that's part of the year when you actually can have your windows open and enjoy the fresh air. And we have a backyard that we like to be out in. By Memorial Day, it's often these days getting too hot to want to do that. And I also have a brief statement from my husband who couldn't be here tonight. He just says that, he says, I live in Maplewood and I support strict restrictions on leaf blowers. As someone who frequently works from home, I'm acutely aware of noise pollution, and leaf blowers are a prime source. They're also harmful for the environment and the gardeners who use them. There are plenty of other ways to achieve an attractive lawn that don't harm the rest of us. His name is Joel Rose. He shares my address. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am Susan Greeley. I live at 6 Rucker Street in Maplewood. Thank you for taking on a progressive change towards healthier Maplewood. I agree actually with the original ordinance. Obviously, some of the dates that you talked about, like Lily and others have mentioned, as we're facing more climate change, that things are warmer and we're experiencing more times where we want to be outdoors. I work from home. Part of the time, I'm also then a mom, so I need to have my kid outside in those warmer times, and so I'd like to see the original dates maintained. I also, at some other date, maybe like to talk about other gas lawn maintenance equipment, and why is that? A study in the the state of California is showing that the use of gas lawn maintenance equipment should exceed the emissions of cars by 2020. I don't think it's something we need to think about, but I appreciate the focus on gas leaf blowers for now. I support the ban. I had a much deeper testimonial here, and I do have a couple from some other people, but I wanted to touch upon the limitation on the number of people. I am in a trifecta, as I call it, where what concerns me is the number of guys who are using leaf blowers at the same time. I'm in a situation on Tuesdays where I have 3 different companies starting at 8 o'clock on the dot, starting in one place, blowing 10 feet from my window, blowing debris at my window, another guy across the street starting, and then I got another guy who starts, third guy, doing 4 houses adjacent to me with 4 to 5 guys with a total of 7 straight hours in one day. That's beyond annoying. So I would like that to be looked at when you look at the square footage. You know, obviously I'm in a tighter space than, perhaps some of these landscapers have talked about, have larger properties. Perhaps there's some flexibility there. I don't see that flexibility in my world. It also affects me from an economic point of view. I cannot take a conference call. I cannot have clients over. I cannot keep running down to my basement to have these conference calls. In fact, I have to actually get off of my conference calls, postpone conference calls, or have someone on the other phone say, can you please mute your phone? And this is why I'm still in the basement. Health-wise, I think we've already sort of talked about the aspects of that. I won't go into it much deeper. I want to also clarify something here. Again, we talked about the economics. I know landscapers are talking about their economics, but our economics are, shutting the windows, turning on our AC, buying the medicines for our kids, not being able to make the money for our companies that we work for. So there's a balance here, right? And I'm urging you to look, as representative citizens of Maplewood, put us first in terms of this ordinance and our
all these different impacts for us. My one question is, what happens after the third offense?
What happens after that?
After the third offense, we talked about,
Then everything after that would be at the $1,500.
so if they keep offending, they get 15 again, 15
Right,
again.
yes.
They don't lose the license. What happens? Because let's just assume, it could be crazy, but let's just talk crazy and say, maybe the guys who have 100 houses don't care. Because I know in talking to my landscaper, who's responsible and courteous, that it was not so much the issue, but the issue has been some of the larger companies that have a lot more business and flexibility and maybe have some more income to play around with it. I don't know this, but my question is, when you go to the Department of Environmental Protection in New York City, and you talk about noise from a restaurant, I know for a fact, because I lived one, and I went through the process, we go down to a warning, you get 2 weeks, you fix it. If you don't fix it, you get a fine, you come back in 2 weeks, you get a bigger fine, next time they come in, they shut you down. That's it.
For restaurants, we would be able to do that. For leaf blowers, we don't license the leaf blower or the contractor.
Well, you have a list on the website, right?
They don't register with us, they register with the state. And then we list them, either can register with the state or they can register.
You have a list on your website that effectively like Maplewood.
Mr. Desiderio, do you have any input on that? As to something we could include in the ordinance, that they would lose their...
Well, the answer is if they're licensed by Maplewood, but not if they're licensed by the state.
Right, but we do require registration of the lawn maintenance companies every year in town. The only difference between that and the state is that they don't have to pay an extra fee if they pay for the state.
Yeah, the answer is you could put it in. The answer is you could put it in.
Okay. And one last thing, I noticed it was wonderful that you want to, I think educating the public is really important. What's not mentioned is educating the landscapers about their opportunities. I know that we don't have a ton of time here, so you can cut me off if you want to. But I do have an individual who I reached out to, who's an eco-landscaper, who's actually put down his mark in Newton, Massachusetts, and basically is a young guy who, and I wish there were a number of the landscapers here to talk to about this, about simply putting out a lawn sign, investing in his equipment, put out a lawn sign, grew his business exponentially to where he almost couldn't handle it, and was able to charge more per hour than the national average. And he also saved on 10 to 25% savings on just labor costs. Technology for him actually extended his work week, decreasing it. He has no complaints. Customers in neighborhoods are happy. They come home reeking gas. His wife is happy about a lot of these things. Anyway, long story longer.
We have to close it because we're going too long.
I have a gentleman here, and I believe I forwarded his name, would be willing to talk to any landscaper here and provide his services. And I, in fact, will put my money where my mouth is, and I'm willing to talk to first landscaper who wants to open an eco lawn care company. I'd be willing to invest my own money towards the equipment, coordinate lawn sign, and coordinate training with George. So.
You got one back. He's waving.
Okay.
And I have a couple more testimonials real quick.
No, we're done.
Okay, that's it. These are from other residents.
Yeah, but we're limited to 3 minutes. We got other people that have to speak.
Right. And if they're forward.
No,
you can't present.
You can't present for other people.
Oh, okay. I thought that it was 3 minutes. Okay.
No.
May I submit them?
Sure. You can email them to us.
Thank you
That'd
very
be
much
great.
for letting me go a little extra.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to comment?
I appreciate you having us back again. I'm Nelson Lee, New Jersey Landscape Contractors Association President. Represented several other associations at the last meeting, and I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to offer you some alternatives. And I'm glad to hear that you were able to come to some sort of compromise, it sounded like. So we appreciate that very much. We're very fortunate to have you guys allow us to do this with you. One of the things I was a little disappointed to hear is the fact that we weren't able to utilize possibly one handheld gas blower, especially after hearing you, Mayor, experience the difficulties or watching the difficulties of the tree people cleaning. We also, as landscape contractors, during the summer months, experience the same type of difficulty cleaning up shrub trimmings. So whatever you experienced seeing your tree people, we also experience those same situations when we're trying to do cleanups of shrub trimming and certain cleanups that people expect of us when we're trimming trees or pruning trees or any kind of.
You understand what our mindset is in not allowing one blower, right?
Excuse me, yes.
Because then it becomes what we already have, which is impossible to enforce and then gets abused.
I do understand it to a certain degree, and I understand backpack blowers, but I think with a handheld, I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah, I am.
Like a small handheld blower, I mean, they're very light, they're relatively quiet compared to a backpack blower. I mean,
So on those-
that is quiet.
Okay.
It's quiet.
All right, go ahead.
So, that's just my thought.
Yeah.
I don't believe that a battery-operated blower is going to have enough power and going to be able to do the same job that our clients would expect to come out with a professionally finished product of what they're paying for.
They have commercial grade battery operated.
They're still not what they should be.
Okay, so why don't you just finish? You got another minute.
Okay. The other thing, I'm also speaking as a homeowner. So like, I heard what all these homeowners had to say. I've also been to several other meetings where homeowners spoke, and, I can confide with how a homeowner feels, because being a homeowner, to a certain degree, I kind of feel the same way. But also being on the other end as a contractor, I also understand during the summer months, I have a young daughter, we're outside playing, and we have neighbors that elect to have contractors take care of their grounds as well as I hire somebody else because it's not advantageous for me to have my own crews take care of mine. So I realize that I'm going to be inconvenienced for 5 or 10 minutes that they're going to be there physically using a blower to clean up the property. And that's all part of living in the, in the suburbs, of living in the areas that we live in. I'm not saying it's good or bad, and I can understand everybody's concern about the health issues and the pollen that it blows up and all the dirt and all of the other situations that occur from that. But for the amount of time that contractors are there physically using that piece of equipment, and I understand the reverse of that, if that we're only using it for 5 or 10 minutes, why do we need it? Because without it, it is more than 5 or 10 minutes to be able to do the same job that we can do. So I'm just asking if you would consider the handheld blower, because it is easier to police, because they'd be holding it in their hand, not wearing it on their back. And I appreciate all the other concessions that you guys have made for us as far as dates and.
So let me ask you one question.
Yes, sir.
On this issue of whether, on the safety equipment, whether we find the worker or the company, do you have a position?
It's a double-edged sword, but I believe that the contractor, meaning the employer, should be responsible.
Okay.
Even though my gut is
Okay.
the employee should be.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Anyone else want to address the township?
Hi, Steve Rule, 17 Salter Place here in Maplewood. Thank you all for, somebody else earlier, I think made a very nice point, which was to thank you for a very peaceful summer last summer. It really did make a difference. It was noted by, I live in the Gulf Island neighborhood, and it was noted by many, many, many people who live there. It's a completely different experience of the summer. I just wanted to make the very quick ask that the window be maximized, understanding, of course, that there are compromises that need to be made. We're not trying to ruin any contractors' businesses. I know that's not anybody's intent here. But since the period before and after the ban is a practical matter based on when leaves are starting to come down, when collection is starting, to also consider that one of the main factors in making this decision was the health aspect, the particulate matter that's blown into the air. That issue doesn't disappear just because it's October 1st, or because it's before May 15th. So, as a father of a kid who's got asthma, I'm, I think, especially attuned to it, and it makes me nervous when I see the blowers out there and can actually see the particulate in the air. So when you're making your deliberations about what that window is going to be, I just ask that you would keep in mind that the practical matter of the particulate pollution doesn't change based on the date. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee?
Hi, Jonathan Poor, 35 Roosevelt Road. Thank you again for being willing to go through this again. In fact, I was up here talking about this back in the original ordinance, which was all kicked off by a letter a guy from Holland wrote to the News Record back in like 2001, saying what a great place this is, except for he found it crazy that to walk around through town in the fall in this beautiful weather, you would just be assaulted by all this crazy activity. He couldn't figure it out. It made no sense to him, and thought something should be done about it. I mean, and for his trouble, among other things, people said that he should just, if he didn't like America, he should leave. But anyway, which sounds sort of familiar somehow.
Yeah.
And he did. I don't think he lives here anymore, actually. So just a quick point about, I've seen this over the course of more than 20 years. Came in 95, and the market is driving this all in one direction. It's kind of a crescendo of increasing mayhem, basically, in the fall season. I know we're talking about a summer ban, but we're hearing that we're getting pushed back, that the window's getting smaller. And I want to go back to the crazy period and say, maybe, all right, if we're gonna shorten our window, what about coming less frequently in the fall? I mean, why, in the olden times, the families got out and raked the leaves out maybe twice a season. Why are we coming every single week from, all right, we're talking about September 15th or September 1st through the end of November, even into December? That's every week. It doesn't need to be done every week. And in fact, if you could think of some way of affecting the market to promote coming less frequently, like the size of the crew. What if it took everybody twice as long to do all their clients' houses? They'd come half as often. They'd do the whole cycle of their clients and come back less frequently. Because now it's like not only have in my neighborhood in 95 maybe half the houses had lawn services. Now I'm like the only one who doesn't. And so there's more houses. It's every week, and then the size of the crews. Maybe there were 3 people in 1995 on a crew for a fall cleanup, and now it's 4, probably even 5 more powerful machines. So again, the market is driving this. And also again, just as an aside, the comparison with raking. The rakes don't move small particles. So in a way, it's not a fair comparison. The thing that the blowers are doing, they're moving way more stuff. But a rake doesn't move as much, but that's probably a good thing for the yard and so on. You're leaving behind organic material for life in your yard. Another idea about how to perhaps affect the market. Maplewood is subsidizing this activity by, for free, picking up all the stuff out of the street every week or on a schedule. So, crazy idea. What if Maplewood said, we're not picking up leaves anymore? At all. I mean, our towns that do not do that. Princeton, Mountainside, I think. Is Summit? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think Summit has some bagging.
Short of that, going to bagging. I know there's a pilot program for bagging. Would throwing some of the cost of processing these leaves onto the homeowner encourage coming less frequently? So anyway, those are some ideas about perhaps having market forces.
You're talking about if the homeowner has to pay for
The landscaper would
Remove all
have to
the
put them in
leaves.
bags, right? I mean,
Right, they'd
so they
have
would have to
to-
charge more.
The homeowner is paying for removal of leaves through
Right,
taxes.
that's true.
Through taxable.
Homeowners
I-
pay,
yeah,
but,
and people, including people who don't.
and there are other things
put them
we
in the
can't,
street.
those taxes can't pay for because we're paying.
I mean, I know in Montclair, where they bag, a lot of landscapers don't bag them. They just, they have a
just put
truck,
them in
they
their
have a
truck.
big vacuum truck, they take them off themselves. The town has to collect fewer things.
Yep.
Savings for the town as well. So anyway, some ideas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to close it, and we're going to get down to seeing where we are. Anyone want to make any comments first? I'm going to try to go down the list and see if we can get to some agreement.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. I'd like my colleagues who wanted to make the windows smaller to consider a couple of good points that were brought up. In particular, the fact that who are we representing here? The residents, those who are working from home or home with small children, or just home in general, which is a home they bought. When it's hot, I personally don't have central air, so I have to use my whole house fan in the attic when it gets warmer, but when I really like to have my doors and windows open is when it's not so blazing hot. So I think, and the landscapers that we interviewed said they need a few weeks for spring cleanup, for the rake out time. And they start, I heard one today for the 15 minutes I got out of bed to go on my computer. The balcony door was open and I heard a leaf blower a couple blocks away. And I thought, how appropriate. So I guess my point is I'd like the members of this committee to consider keeping it at May 15th through September 30th. I'd like it to be through October 15th because I think you'll see that the leaves aren't blowing, but the leaves aren't falling, but they'll still be blowing anyway. And I think that's something we need to get out of the norm. And so I'd like the window to be expanded to closer to what was originally proposed.
So, did you want to say something? I was just going to.
I was just going to say
So,
that.
go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Go ahead.
In terms of on the back end at least, I would be willing to go from, I mentioned September 15th. That was, something that I communicated, and I'm go to the end of September, just based on comments today and also just really the variance between.
Mr. McGee, I'm sorry, but I cannot hear a word you're saying.
Okay. I'll step back.
I'm not sure that I should, but I think it might be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Closer? Better? Okay, sorry. I was just saying, communicating to Ms. Adams and to my fellow committee members that I'd be willing to go from September 15th to September 30th, increasing that time frame. I mean, initially, we're talking about a 5-month period here, when you look at the numbers. So I'm saying, I'm willing to extend to September 30th per your request.
Thank you.
Okay, so, let's see if we can just get to, so on the restriction, we've all agreed it's a total ban during a period. We have to agree on the period.
Yes.
So, what's the,
I think I hear May 15th to
sorry.
September 30th.
go ahead.
Total ban, say total, we're
Total ban on gas commercial leaf blowers,
Commercial.
for whom?
commercial landscapers.
Commercial landscapers.
Yes.
Okay.
Or commercial businesses.
So,
Yeah, I think we're trying to maybe put too many topics in
Yeah.
one.
Right.
We're looking for
Yeah,
consensus
so-
because,
Otherwise, we're not going to get there.
No, I have.
So this is commercial leaf blowers by landscapers.
okay.
And so the period of time, let's talk about the ending time, because I think there's more agreement on the ending time.
I could go to September 30th.
September 30.
September 30th. What's the beginning time? We've had some people say May 15th. We've had some people say Memorial Day.
I think Memorial Day, and I believe that because stuff starts coming out of my trees for Memorial Day. Imagine
Get those
stuff is
rakes.
coming out of other trees, and in answer to your question about whom we're representing, I think we are also representing people who don't want any ban.
I'm aware of that, yeah.
Okay, so.
I would go Memorial Day,
Memorial
September
Day,
30th.
I'd go May 15th.
I'll go Memorial Day.
you're May 15th?
Between the two, I'm going to vote for this thing. So May 15 or May 30 doesn't matter to me.
I would go with May 15th, so.
You're the deciding vote.
It's an easy.
Think of all those
because
hours I
it's a
spent with
set-
those committees
It's a
that you
set, to me, it's a set, they're set months. It's June, July, August, and September. It's.
Although Memorial Day sometimes falls as early
Yeah,
as
it's the
like.
25th.
Right, this year is early.
Yeah. I'm fine with May 15th.
All right, it's May 15th, September 30th, total ban on gas commercial leaf blowers by commercial landscapers.
I'd like it to be all
We're
commercial.
gonna get to that.
Oh, I thought you were, okay.
No, we're trying to get down this. Now, there's one proposal, restrict the number of commercial blowers used on any one lot during the period outside the ban. That's before or after?
I'm a no on that.
No.
I'm a no. Yes or no? No.
All right, I'm gonna have you guys over.
Okay. Hours, Monday to Friday, the proposal is 8 AM to 5 PM.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, it says here 8 AM to 6 PM, I'm sorry.
but I'd love
All right,
5.
I think that's too early.
It's 8 AM now.
Oh, it's 8 AM now.
Yeah.
So you
No,
can
it's 7,
start,
it's
you
like
can,
7:30 now.
you can start at 8? You're
Yes.
saying that they can start blowing at 8?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
I think it is 8. I think it is 8.
7:30.
7:30?
7:30. So we're pushing it back
All
half
right,
an hour.
8 AM.
8.
And then the proposal is 6 PM, I've heard 5 PM.
I'd like 5, but
6?
6.
All right, so go with the proposal. Saturday, the proposal is 9 AM to 5 PM.
10 to 4.
I
I like at least 10. Not 9, I can go with 9.
I like 10 because people
Okay, so you have 10,
sleep a little.
where are you?
longer.
10-4.
10 to 4?
And 4,
This would be for,
Saturday.
no, but this would be, because there's also, is this for residential, is this for everybody or just the commercial?
We're making an exception on Sunday.
Are we, maybe something to vote on, or at least take temperature on, is, are we talking for all of this, are residents excluded from
Yeah.
during the summer months? Because,
I would not exclude them for the time periods.
okay, but the question is,
They're not banned.
but are they banned? I mean, because it's.
No, I don't think there's enough votes to ban all of them.
Okay, well, no, because, I mean, I just want to make clear that I'm with Deputy Mayor Adams.
I
on that
understand
one.
that. I don't think the three of us are
Okay.
residents, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but the time is important because it affects, at least your proposal is it affects everybody, right? Both residents and commercials.
I mean,
Yes.
I can't blast music after a certain time.
Yeah,
We
no,
have
and
noise.
if we're going to do that, we're going to have different rules for residents and landscapers, then I want to prohibit commercial use on Sundays
Yeah, definitely.
year-round. And, but provide some hours for residents on Sundays.
Okay.
Because of the religious, and also because, there's people, working in certain professions where it's not necessarily Monday through Friday, and Sunday may be the one day they can do it.
Okay, so just to be clear then, for Monday to Friday, both commercials and residential will be 8 AM to 6 PM, because we
It's
don't want,
outside of the ban time.
This is, yeah,
Yeah.
obviously.
Spring, the
Correct.
winter.
right,
Fall,
yes.
Okay.
And then on Saturday, we're kicking around times.
I'd go 10 to 5.
I agree with that.
but-
I think, you
I
got,
think 9.
10 to 5.
you got residents who, yeah, I would
Get
go
this
10,
up And
10 to 5.
10 to 5.
10 to
10 to
5.
5, something we can work with?
10 to 5?
Yeah,
Sure.
Got an hour on each side.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm fine with it.
That's commercial and residential. Then on Sunday, no commercial, only residential, and that would be from,
10 to 5.
No, because we'd then be moving it up from where it is now.
Where is it now?
Right now, is it
It's 11 to 5
11.
right now.
11 to 5? Let's keep it 11 to 5.
Agreed.
okay. Just the hours again, this is outside the ban. 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., commercial and residential. 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday, commercial and residential. On Sunday, no commercial, just residential, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m.
And just to make it clear that the hours, the Monday through Saturday hours that you just went through will apply to residents even during the ban period. If the ban doesn't apply to residents, those hours
Right.
still apply.
That's right, that's a good point.
Absolutely.
It's year-round for the residents.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because it can't be the Wild West during the summer for residents. Okay.
7 days on the street, well, that's what we do now, so we're just reaffirming that.
I actually think you might want to check that. I think it says 10 days before.
It says it here. No leave shall be put in the street more than 7 days prior to your scheduled week. That's actually,
Never mind.
I think DEP says, that's the DEP rule.
Yeah, we just need to, enforce it and.
Yeah, I think we should do this again, because this is what they're looking at.
Yeah, so have it all under one roof, and that was part of what the subcommittee discussed in looking at the ordinances, is that sometimes you had to look in 2 or 3 different places to figure out what the rules were. So having it all under one roof, even if it's redundant, I think is worthwhile.
Okay, require workers to wear safety equipment for both hearing and breathing. I think we all said yes.
Yes.
I think what was recommended is we find the company.
Yes.
Yes.
And they can fire their employee if
And,
they take them off.
in terms of a fine structure, Mr. Desiderio, do we necessarily, for violating the blower ban, for violating the safety equipment requirement, for putting leaves in the street when they're not supposed to, do all of those have to have the same fine structure, or can we set a different fine structure for each of those?
The answer is you can set a different fine structure for each one. Drafting this is going to be very interesting.
Well, we
But
want to make your
the
life
answer to your
interesting.
question is you can certainly you can do that, yes.
Okay, no, because my question, and this is without putting my finger on the scale either way, is, do we want to have, the 500, 1,000, 1,500, do we want to have that for everything, including when you can put the leaves out, including workers wearing the safety equipment? Now, I'm fine either way, but it strikes me that, we're talking about 3 different offenses we're fining people for here, and does the same dollar amounts make sense for each one?
I think
putting that out.
I would think we ought to have a different one for the safety equipment, because honestly, if some worker forgets to wear it or doesn't want to wear it, or it's hot and doesn't wear it, and if we start finding them $500, $1,000,
Yeah.
those people are going to get fired.
Right.
I agree.
I think it should be a more nominal amount. I don't know what that nominal amount is. Maybe I would make it 50, 100, 150.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense, because and also, I think that each of these, in terms of determining what is a second offense and what's a third offense, someone who has 2 equipment violations, and then they have 1 leaf blower violation, getting hit with a $1,500 fine right off the bat, it seems like, these are going to add up within each category. So maybe, putting aside what dollar figures we put on this, I think we should have 3 different categories of violation.
I agree.
And I think I'm fine with 500, 1,000, 1,500 for both the doing it outside the time period you're allowed to do it, and also violating the ban. But I sort of agree with the mayor that doing something at a much lower level for the safety equipment makes sense.
How about 50, 100, 150 for the safety equipment?
Yes.
I could support that.
This is sausage making, folks, I'm sorry.
But
No, this is how the laws get made.
But this is open public meeting to me.
Yes.
We cannot discuss this in
Right.
private and come out and just announce it.
Okay, so,
Are you thinking we're boring our audience?
so let's go back to the fine. So we have 500, 1,000, 1,500. This is if you use the blower during the summer, or you use it outside of the time frames of the hours.
Okay. And
And then the other proposal is, do we want to put a loss of registration or something? What would be the loss?
Possible loss of license.
Possible loss of license?
Well, there's got to be due process.
Right.
So, yeah. possible loss license.
But that would only apply to the ones who are registered
Yeah.
with us, who aren't registered with the state. I mean, can we, if someone is registered with the state, can we take away their ability to do business in Maplewood?
The answer is, I think, yes.
Okay. I
But
didn't know that.
there's going to have to be a hearing, there's going to have to be a process. We're not going to be able to put that into the resolution. That's going to be a whole nother issue. What's the hearing, who's the hearing going to be before? What's the burden of proof going to be? What's the standard of proof going to be? I mean, every time you come up with an idea, there's 5 other things you have to think about.
I think it should be in front of the deputy mayor.
There you go. So this would be on the I'll get to you in just one second. This would be on the 4th or more?
Well, 4th or more, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as a practical matter, that's not going to happen.
Right.
It's not going to happen as a
It's not
practical
going to
matter.
happen.
It's not gonna,
Nobody
after somebody gets fined
I mean, that's what the law makes.
$3,000, they're not gonna be doing this anymore.
Exactly, right.
I don't think we need to, I would not be in favor of adding the loss of license. I don't believe that a contractor is gonna get to the 4th one and.
Well, they're probably not, but if they do, we have to have a.
Well, they would get
Then they would-
$1,500.
Listen,
Then they
you
would-
can, you can send them to
pay more
jail for
money.
30 days if you want.
But,
You're entitled, you can send them to jail for 30 days.
No, I don't
No,
want to
it's
do
not.
that.
Okay.
No.
Just-
Larry
With their
wants
leaf
to do.
blower.
I'm just
No,
telling you, you do have the ability to do so.
So you could be $1,500 for the 3rd and each subsequent.
Right.
And look, if this happens, we can always go in and change it for the future.
Okay.
But I doubt someone's gonna,
I concur with you,
if we
Mr.
start
Mayor.
collecting a whole bunch of $1,500 fines, that gets to be real money. I mean, this
To me,
could
the
be a
first
genuine
1,500
revenue
is-
source.
Mayor, I wanted
Yeah.
to go back to the leaves, not more than 7 days.
right.
We don't have a fine associated with that.
This would be an obstruction of road. We probably have a fine for that, right?
I'll check.
And can we be redundant though and put it in here?
Yes.
Yeah, but we should use the same thing, because that's like if you put something in the
Right.
road, do the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah, so I think it's fine to be redundant as long as it's not contradictory.
Well, of
or,
course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
inconsistent.
I think
So,
those
yeah.
are 2 different.
I don't think it's gonna be as high as these numbers here.
No,
500,
that's fine.
1,000.
Well, we can always change that.
Right. Okay.
Let me circle back.
Yes.
So what do you want to fine a homeowner if he uses a leaf blower other than the hours permitted? You want to charge him 500, 1,000, and 1,500?
Oh, he can go to jail for 30 days.
Yeah. He's local, he'd go to jail.
No, I think outside of the hours,
What would a normal fine be, like for the noise ordinance? I'm sorry, I have this in my
I
mind.
mean, it's probably $100.
Why don't we check the noise ordinance and make it consistent with?
Yeah, like if I'm blaring my
I
stuff
agree with
after
that.
11.
Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think making it consistent with the noise ordinance, because that's really what they're violating, because they're otherwise doing something they're allowed to do.
Right,
Okay.
Okay.
so we can use that as a guide.
So we're gonna have the 7-day on the street's gonna be obstruction. We're gonna look at that ordinance, and the resident who uses it outside the time frames would be a noise ordinance. We're gonna be consistent with that.
Yep.
Okay, what about the use of electric or battery? That's permitted
Permitted.
by anybody? Even a landscaper during the time?
Yeah, I think so. I would like to encourage them to start using battery operated.
Yeah, my understanding, and I'm open to contradiction on this, but my understanding is that both the environmental impact and the noise is so substantially reduced with those machines that it really doesn't invoke the
Right.
issues that we're trying to
Deal with.
to resolve.
And the particulate matters slightly less too, I believe. I'm not positive on that. But if they were, using the backpack blowers that they use now not at full blast like they do, we wouldn't even be discussing this, but no,
Okay.
it's more of that.
What about and Mr. Mann, if you could think about this, the emergency waivers? Who would we want to declare that somebody could use a leaf blower during the emergency? You have any thought about that? Should it be you? Should it be DPW? You're the,
It should be the
Emergency management.
coordinator, deputy coordinator, or the other deputy coordinator.
so that's you and the 2 chiefs?
Right. And, and presumably, you can consult with the director of DPW or anyone you want to consult with.
The whole committee, yeah.
Yeah, we have a committee, so, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and we'll let it be known that.
Right.
Right. And that would be like when,
That would
when
be
we had
like a-
Sandy, or we had that, that wind shear.
Irene, yeah, we had, yeah.
Or if there's some crazy weather phenomenon that just.
That was.
Microburst.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, the microburst, right?
Yeah, microburst, that's it.
Okay, so,
Or could have moved that.
No, it's true.
okay, now let's go back to other contractors.
I think they could survive without leaf blowers during the summer, personally.
Yeah, but I also don't think they're nearly as heavy offenders, so.
They're not, except that I've had the issue where there's, actually, it was when we were in a meeting out there, and they were blowing two guys on the roof, and then they were blowing in the driveway.
And, at the risk of putting a question to our attorney that I know he's not prepared to answer tonight, but do we have a potential problem of,
Yes.
yes.
The answer is I am prepared, and it is an equal protection issue,
Okay.
in my opinion. I don't know, if the intent is noise and but with noise pollution or air pollution, there is no reasonable basis to accept anybody else, in my opinion.
Okay, then for that reason, I'm persuaded that if we're going to do it for one, we have to do it for all, at least on a commercial basis.
How big a problem could it be? How often what contractors are we talking about?
Well,
Besides gutters.
pavers, they do, because when they do a paving of a road, they have to get those gutters really clean so that it takes. So they usually do the brushes, and sometimes they have somebody with a blower that walks and does the curb line.
How did they do it before the blowers?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not old that long. I'm not that old.
Get to work before cars exist.
It doesn't, but it's a valid point. It's not
Point is,
like
that's
it
what they're
can't be
doing.
done.
That's what they're doing
That's
now.
what they're doing, but
Right.
they're also blowing lawns.
Right.
And that's become a new normal. So a new normal for paving a road, if that's blowing out the side instead of sweeping it, when it could probably be taken care of very easily by sweeping.
I don't know. I tell you one thing they have is.
What
we
about a
have-
road sweeper?
We have those, and I don't know, this is something I've seen, is that we have drains that run along the side and they get stuck. So you blow out the stuff that gets stuck. They're like little drains.
You mean when they mill the road?
And then when they
And
mill
then
the road, there's a
And there's
drain.
drains that stuff gets.
It's not the drain, it's not the big drains, there's
No,
these
I
little
understand.
drains. And I don't know, I mean, I've just seen it when they do the big paving.
Well, I'd like to consult with our engineer before we.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think the issue with the leaf blowers and the landscapers is there's a leaf blower outside your door every single week. And there's one outside this door, there's one outside that door, there's one outside that door, every single week, every single day. The issue is they're there every day. Or your pavers aren't there every day, your gutter cleaners aren't there every day, your, what's the thing? Roof fixers, whatever those are called, roofers, are not there every day. I think it is different. And I am not a lawyer, but I think it's different. When my neighbor does his roof, he's not going to do it this week and then again next week. And most likely, this neighbor is not going to do his roof the day before that neighbor and the day after that neighbor. So I have no problem saying other contractors are able to use the leaf blower on a limited basis, but to say that we ban everybody, that I do have a problem with.
I don't have a problem with banning all contractors from May 15th to September 30th from using blowers.
Yeah. And Mrs. Larry, it's not that I'm unsympathetic to that position, because, I in fact would be very open to making exceptions. But my concern is just the legal one of are we leaving ourselves open to challenge if we do that. And Mr. Desterio, to my happy surprise, anticipated that issue and was able to provide us advice tonight that, that I unfortunately didn't go the way I was hoping it would. So, I keep going back to sort of the perfect is the enemy of the good. And there's a lot of things about, I think, what we're going to pass that are not ideal, but at the end of the day, I think it's better than not having it. So, so I wouldn't withhold my support on that basis, but that's one member's opinion.
I've checked with an engineer.
Oh, no.
So we did receive some information, I guess it was, I don't know which city this was, the big one you sent out. Palm Springs?
Well, Palm Springs is a desert, so.
Yeah, but their ordinance had some wording that was interesting.
Okay.
Non-emergency exterior hardscape and landscape activities, including without limitation, tree trimming, reseeding, lawn mowing, leaf blowing, dust and debris clearing, and any other landscaping and non-emergency exterior hardscape maintenance activities which would utilize any motorized saw, sander, drill, grinder, leaf blower, lawn mower, hedge,
Oh, you just.
5. So that, I would have to agree with Mr. Lembrick. As much as I don't want it, I think it's not going to affect the gutter people because they're not doing it in the summer, they're in the spring and fall.
They're roofers.
Roofers don't use it. They're not using it.
They might when there's debris in the bushes, but they can get that out.
Yeah, it's, I would be more interested in the tree things and just what I've seen from our paving projects. That, and it always doesn't happen, it's just that sometimes it happens, so. But I think I would go with Mr., it's perfect that we're not going to get, so I want to move this forward, so.
So all contractors.
I concur with you guys. I agree.
So I'm sorry, what is it you have agreed?
All contractors.
Yeah.
Okay.
No exemption.
All commercial.
All commercial use.
Right.
Okay.
And just to point out, because we are talking at this point, and I know the green team, as Mr. McGee mentioned, is working on some ideas in terms of people who will rake and some alternative ideas that may be more green for people. When we talk about a resident using it, we're talking about a resident using it on his or her own property.
Correct.
Okay, so we're not talking about, my 16-year-old neighbor buys a leaf blower and then offers his services to everyone in the neighborhood as leaf blower, because as far as I'm concerned, that's a commercial use that he's getting paid for.
I agree.
Right.
Okay, so we're talking about use on the resident's own property.
Right.
Okay.
Okay? Is there anything we missed? Let's talk about the process. So I'm concerned about getting all this done, having to take a look at it and voting on it, and not running into April. What do you have as a suggestion?
Well, I think the resolution suggestion is the way to go. I think if you ultimately get to a point that you're comfortable with it, we can always draft an ordinance and formalize it. But I think, frankly, there's a lot here. I would suggest that we do a resolution, that you put it on for further discussion at the next meeting. If we're able to get it into a form that you're comfortable with at the next meeting, we can pass it. You can pass it. Alternatively, you put it on for final on the first meeting in April.
Okay, why don't we draft it and put it on?
Yeah.
Not for discussion, but put it on for passage. We can always amend a resolution at the meeting.
That is true.
And then we can dispose of it that night.
Okay.
And then,
can always- But we can amend a resolution, ordinance at the meeting as well.
yeah, but it's much higher burden,
I like the resolution.
because then you have to do out and go advertise.
I'm fine with the resolution, and like Mr. Desterio said, if at some point we get comfortable, whether it's this year or in the future, there's nothing preventing us from turning a resolution into ordinance. Now, just to clarify, the resolution is something that we would then only goes through the end of this year, right? Would we have to renew the resolution?
Correct.
Okay.
But if in October you're comfortable that what's happened is satisfactory, you can certainly pass the ordinance at that, introduce the ordinance and pass it at that time, and then you don't have to go through the exercise year after year.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let me take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
All right? If we're going to start, it's on the agenda.
Oh, yeah.
We're just going to take a little out of order. Have our chair of our Historic Preservation Commission come on up for a little announcement.
Thank you, Mayor DeLuca. Members of the Township Committee, I'm Virginia Kirshan, Chair of the Historic Preservation Commission, but I have a different hat on tonight. I'm here to announce publicly that there will be a meeting on Thursday, March 23rd, the initial informational meeting for the brand-new Maplewood Memorial Park Conservancy. The meeting will be held at the Woodland from 7 to 9. If you can't make it at 7, come anytime during that time. There'll be a lot of information available about the park, about the plans for the new organization, and hopefully many people will come. I hope that members of the Township Committee can join us. I believe Mayor DeLuca and Deputy Mayor Nancy Adams will be there. I hope other members of the Township Committee can come. I think it's a very exciting new organization for the town to help enhance the beautiful park that we have in the center of town.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for
Thank you. Okay, next up is the pod ordinance. This came out of code. Mrs. Larry, you want to speak to this?
Well, honestly, Mr. Mayor, it was my understanding that we were going to have an amendment to an ordinance for pods.
We're going to pass an ordinance.
Yeah.
So we wanted to look at it because I have.
Yeah, I mean, I circulated a draft. If it's okay, we'll put it on and.
Well, I have some questions. I don't know if you wanted to say it. Well,
No.
So under temporary trailers, which deals with the direct result fire damage to an existing building, making it uninhabitable. That's on first A.
Yes, sir.
Then we have the second paragraph there. It says, all not-for-profit groups are exempt from paragraph A. And I know that was in the Roselle Park, is this ordinance? Do you have any sense of why that is?
None whatsoever.
Do we know why?
By nonprofit.
Why the nonprofits were exempted? Okay. I don't see any reason for that.
We don't need to exempt.
And I also don't know why we would have government agencies, because the restriction is 6 months. That's the thing. It's a 6-month restriction. I don't think nonprofits or the government should have temporary trailers out there for more than 6 months.
We had them back here, right? For like almost a year.
When?
When we cleaned the basement.
Never again.
And then when we did the renovation.
And we've had, I think the township has had floods in the basement.
Yeah.
And they've had to use trailers, temporary trailers to store documents and try to die documents. I'm pretty sure of that.
All right. So we would just leave the.
I'd take out the not-for-profit section and leave the government section.
Okay, yeah.
Okay?
Yes. Okay, is everyone okay? We'll put this on for introduction at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Capital budget.
Okay, so you all have the latest version, which came to you tonight, which had just some minor, a couple minor things. Basically, on number 5 under engineering, we had a price correction, or we should have had a price correction for the grant amount of money.
For which one?
Yeah, talk about the numbers. All right. Which budget item?
Hold on.
You said number 5, but I don't know which.
Under engineering.
Under engineering.
60 Woodland?
Oh, I'm sorry, 60 Woodland building improvements. The grant, I think we put in there 175,000, but the actual grant, when it was put on paper, is 171,637. So it's a little bit there. So that raises the amount that we're going to borrow by a couple $1,000s. And there's just 2 other minor ones. Under fire department, there is a garage repair. We had, the final number is 7,700, but we had a grant in there for 7,700, and there wasn't a grant.
It was not.
Was not. So we took that out. And there was one minor other one. Which one? Engineering, number 8. Number 8. All right, hold on. The paving of Parker? Yes. I think we had $250,000, and actually the grant was $245,000. So the bottom line is changed a little bit, just a tiny bit, not anything significant.
Put magnifying glasses out for this.
So the other differences here are explained on the right. The Finance Committee met, and we talked about doing the project of the pavers over 3 years. Mr. Manning had put in over more, he only put a couple $100,000 there. And then we also talked about, we had to put $30,000 back into the Safe Street to Schools because. Number 4, because Mr. Kittner said that we cannot use the grant money for that, and we won't get the grant money without having that.
It was for inspectors.
For the inspectors. And then we also added the money for the library, the $16,000 and the $15,000, which is library number 5 and 6. And then we added $15,000 for the website design. Mr. Manning had taken it out, and we thought that the website was important to upgrade, so we added that. So
and one last one, which was the latest one, which was under Public Works, number 6.
So this is something that we talked about in relation to
our needs.
Our pedestrian safety and traffic safety is we have no ability to freshen up, paint the crosswalks. We have to rely on outside work to do it. We've been talking about it in planning and engineering about having the ability to do this ourselves and being able to roll out a plan where we would be able to do the crosswalks on a regular basis around town, because some of them are getting faded. Even when we put the stop sign on Maplewood Avenue, we didn't even have the capacity to put the stop bar on the street.
Right.
We had to go out and get a contractor to do that, so.
Right, but I thought we were going to do that as a shared purchase with another town, with.
No, not this.
No.
That's what we talked about at Engineering Public Works.
No, okay,
Yeah,
well, I don't remember that.
But that's normally something that we can do, though, just have an outside contractor do it for relatively nominal costs of like.
It's not that.
I'm sorry.
It's like, less than $1 a linear foot for 4-inch wide stripes, $1 for 5-inch wide, 6-inch wide stripes or whatever, and then traffic markings are like $6 a square foot.
That's not really actually the issue. The issue is getting them, they're not going to come here to do one stripe.
No, they're not going to come into one
So you have to
stripe.
kind of like, you have to get like a season's worth of work for, that you were rating a season's worth, you put them all together, then they'll come in. If you wanted a bar immediately.
Right, I understand that. I just don't know how frequently we need, once in the last year and a few months that I've been here, and that was the stop bar on Maplewood Avenue.
No, we just don't do stop sign, we don't do crosswalks on a regular basis because we have no capacity to do it.
Well,
And we
because we don't put it on a list.
Well, because it becomes more expensive.
The maintenance of our crosswalks, I was looking around town after we had this conversation, they're in desperate need, many places in our town.
And it allows us to be able to be in control of that. We have.
Parking spaces, correct?
Parking spaces too.
Parking, yes.
But this is, what I had sent you an email about, Mr. Manning, is that we have the traffic calming of 50,000. I would be fine to lower that by 22 and make this, I just think that this is part of our traffic calming pedestrian safety. But I'm fine the way it is now, and I'm fine to, if you want to offset it some by taking some money out.
You really need to know if 3 other people supported you for leaving it in or taking it out.
Right.
That's basically it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm in support of it because I think our pedestrian safety is very important, and just watching cars roll into these crosswalks, walking to the train every morning because they're not lined properly is an issue.
Right, I agree with that. That's why we talked about it, and that's why I asked to have it put back in.
I think it should be put back in.
I'm okay with it.
Okay, so so the bottom line here is about 81% of what we pay off in debt.
Yes.
So our debt is, we pay $4 million in bond principal debt and $145,000 in note principal payments. So 80% of that is $3,316,000. And we're at $3,350,000, so it's about 1% more. It's about 81% as opposed to 80%. Live with that?
I can live with that.
Yes.
That was going to be an issue for me, but I think I can.
Yeah,
live with
1%, okay. So,
Anything else with this?
so we will start to develop the ordinance that supports this.
For the pavers from Maplewood Avenue, what is our mindset now? Had so many conversations on it. Are we talking about, are we going to figure out the nuts and bolts of that or just appropriate 350?
Yes, we're going to figure out the nuts and bolts and what the 350 accomplishes, doing it in thirds, yes.
We still have to have a conversation about the
type of thing.
The type of brick, no, there's
the concrete.
Well, it's clay brick, but there was like a higher end clay brick that was put out there. We found out that the Claris developer has not ordered his bricks yet, so we have some time, not a lot of time, but maybe at the next engineering public works meeting, we could talk about it and come up with a final decision.
Okay.
It might, that instead of $4 a brick, it might be $3.50 a brick.
So we may get more for money. But if anybody's been right in front of those stores between Inwood and Highland, it's getting worse. But
that's a whole nother matter.
Yeah, well,
that's another, we have to still figure that one out. Okay. Proposed pricing changes, Woodland and Bergdorf. Mr. McGehee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a continuation of several conversations, inclusive of Ms. Mancuso, regarding our current rates and fees at the Woodland and Bergdorf. There's a proposal which I shared with the fellow committee members, which is looking for some incremental fees. I think in terms of percentage are not very high from a variance perspective. And right now, the Woodland and the Bergdorf are in hot demand. We're seeing more occupancy than ever before. And really, based on other price analysis, there's an opportunity here to raise more revenue for the town, but also maintain the services and quality of which it offers our residents and non-residents in the area who continue to rent the properties on a consistent basis. Every weekend, at least 1 to 2 facilities are jam-packed on a Friday and Saturday night. So what I'm proposing is that the fellow committee members look at these particular rates and be considering moving forward raising the fees.
We had an Arts Council meeting last night, and I mentioned that we were going to be discussing this. They had not seen the rates, and some of those folks who are on the Arts Council they have organizations that rent, and they have some strong feelings about this. I was wondering if I could get some time to send it to them and get some feedback before we put this on for final. So I would be able to give you feedback at the next meeting.
I have no problem with that. This is something that's been making for some time, and I know that they wanted to get these rates in, sooner, January 1 than possible, but that's fine.
Okay. And just to support that, I mean, this is something that actually was being talked about, last year. So this has been kicking around for a while. There has been, Mr. Fishman, yes, he did do sort of a comparative study to benchmark these against other comparable venues and still found that, we could raise to this level while still being significantly below the competition, so to speak.
Yeah, I think, and he did say that these were handed out at our last meeting back in September, and I think, or October, but I think what happened was the got lost in the sauce. And so if we could just have another, I wanted to send it out and then get some response so I can give you a response to it.
Really fair.
Okay.
So yeah, can we put this back on?
Yeah,
the March
back on for
21st,
discussion.
Mrs. President?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, number 5, the pool season.
Yes. So this is really two issues. The first issue is a fee issue, but I think maybe it may be quicker to deal with the second one first, which is the Recreation Committee and the Pool Advisory Committee and a number of residents have been inquiring about the pool parking lot for this summer once the pool season opens on Memorial Day weekend. What do we expect the situation to be with the parking lot? And I know, Mr. Mayor, you mentioned earlier in the meeting that the leases or the contracts we have are supposed to expire before the start of the pool season, but I just wanted to get an update where that would be from you, Mr. Mayor, or from Mr. Manning, or what is the status of the New Jersey Transit and Avalon Bay use of the pool parking lot, and can we expect to sort of maximize our use, residential use of the pool parking lot once the pool opens?
Well, if I may, Avalon Bay, it should be limited to the 12 parking spaces behind the First State Squad, the former First State Squad, although their people do park over there. I mean, but as they complete more of that and we get closer, sort of March, April, May, they're probably going to be able to move those trucks over to their own property. New Jersey Transit, we've met, the mayor, myself, we met, and it looks like we're going to try to get them, a lot of them, out and onto Elmwood Avenue on one side. So that's going to take an ordinance, that's going to take, or maybe a resolution.
No, it doesn't need anything.
No?
Permitted already.
Parking on that side's permitted for them. If there's no adjustment, we're going to have to strike, but so that people, we can count on the number. There's still probably going to be some residual people parking there. I think we've tried to get them over to other parking.
They're aware that they have to be out by Memorial Day.
Right.
And so we're looking at a couple of things. We're going to talk to Winchester Gardens, see if they can do anything there. They're going to park on Elmwood Avenue. And then we also ask them to speak to St. Andrew Kim on Parker about spots there and then busing people back and forth. But we know that the pool parking lot is going to be for pool patrons.
Right, and and it's obviously, what I'm hoping is that, to the extent that it's needed for other things, that it will be mostly weekday when there's a little less stress on the pool parking lot. I mean, obviously, weekends, so even if it's a matter of moving the cars for the weekend, I think because weekends and holidays are obviously when we get the highest traffic and members coming to the pool. So the other issue is each year the Township Committee, at least to my understanding, sets or at least signs off on the membership fees for the community pool. This year's proposal is to keep the fees what they were last year, which was an increase from the years before that, with two exceptions. Last year, actually, the Township Committee approved eliminating a specific membership category for college students, in part because it's been barely used, if used at all, and also because it's we've been looking to streamline the membership categories, and we took out a number of categories last year, but through an oversight that ended up staying in, so the pool committee would like to remove that for this year, or just confirm that it can be removed. The other is a more significant change, and that is there's been significant resident interest in creating rates at the pool, or a membership category that would be a weekend-only membership to accommodate families that are individuals that do not use the pool during the week because of particularly the number of dual income families we have, but would like to join the pool, but would like some discount for the fact that they would only be using it 2 days a week. Now, in theory, because the population at the pool is much greater on the weekend, there hasn't been much interest in that by the pool committee in the past. This year, at the last meeting of the pool committee, there was a vote taken to recommend to the township committee that we offer on a pilot program basis just for this summer to see how it goes, a 20% discount on regular membership prices for weekend only. So that wouldn't include August only membership prices. It wouldn't include the early bird for people who sign up early. It would be the regular full summer membership price, a 20% discount off of that for weekend only. And the thought would be, even if there are individuals and families that are current members or, are historically been members that drop down to a weekend only membership, for every, 3 or 4 of those, we would only need to get one additional membership of that category, for example, a family membership for weekend only, in order to make up for that loss of revenue, and it would add membership to the pool. And right now, there's a general understanding and looking at the numbers that the pool is undersubscribed, and we'd like to get more people in the community to the pool, and this is a thought of one way to do it. That being said, there are members of the committee, both who were at the meeting and who were absent, who have some opposition to this. And we've also, each of us has received a memo from our Director of Recreation, Ms. Mancuso, who expressed some of her concerns about this, which I won't repeat, but certainly we can discuss. But ultimately, this is the Township Committee's decision, and I am, I've presented it. My personal view is I'd be willing to try it for a year and see where it goes. I think to the extent there's going to be a loss of revenue, I wouldn't expect there to be a loss of revenue. If there is, I think it will be minor. And I think that the pool, has in the past historically had many more members than it does now. So the fact that this may add members, I think, would be a good thing and isn't a cause for concern. But that's my view, and is certainly not shared by all others.
Mr. Larrier.
Yeah, I do have, when I first moved here in '95, there was a huge waiting list for the pool. We couldn't even join if we wanted to. So it is astounding that though understandable, that there's now we're looking for members.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, why would you not include the early bird pricing? If you're getting a percentage off, go on the weekend, you may as well just pay the full price early bird and go every single day. It seems to me that there's a large portion of people who could and would benefit from this if you included the early bird pricing, take 20% off of the early bird pricing. I don't know why you would have excluded that.
Well, the thought was to address the concern about cutting into the revenue. We certainly could do that. That would just, leave us potentially more vulnerable to loss of revenue. But I take your point that if we're looking to encourage members that, and we're also looking to encourage early bird people to register early, that doing that is fine. And I certainly would not be against it. I'm conveying the recommendations that came from the Pool Advisory Committee, to which I am the liaison, but as you know, I'm not a voting member. So I'm passing on their recommendation, but I would certainly have no opposition to, if we did this, including it in the early bird
I'm just thinking that if I'm looking to only go on the weekends, but I don't get that 20% off of my early bird, so I may as well for the early bird price for every day, I can pay the same thing, but I'm still only going on the weekend.
Well, I mean, a family of 3 to 7 people, which, is most, is I would say most families, and that's, the family membership is the most popular membership. And while there certainly are families that have 8 or more people, they're the minority. So families 3 to 7, the price for early bird is $405. The price that you could get for weekend only, even without the early bird discount, would be $356. So it would be a $49 savings to do weekend only. Obviously, if you do the early bird discount on top of the weekend only and allowed that, then the discount would be even steeper.
What is the percentage discount now, do you know?
The percentage discount
10% or so?
for early bird is, it's a little bit different because it has to go to categories, but I think it's roughly 10%.
So then you're doing 10% and then you're compounding it with 20%
Yeah,
on top.
I think it's,
Right, and and I think that's why the pool committee thought that, because, we don't want this to cannibalize members who are otherwise paying for the full membership. We don't necessarily want to have everyone drop down to or a large percentage drop down to the weekend only. And, and obviously, there's going to be staffing issues with this either way, but I think those would be compounded if we have a huge percentage of our membership that can only come on weekends. It's going to be then harder to meet the staffing needs on weekends if we have much smaller staffing needs on weekdays. So we're never going to standardize it so that we have the same needs on every day, but we don't want to exacerbate the difference between weekdays and weekends if we can.
Yes.
I have concerns about doing this. I worry about it. I understand it's a pilot recommendation, but I agree with our recreation director, and once you put it in as a pilot, it'd be, especially for something like this, for weekend pool use, it'd be really hard to pull it back. I worry about the extra complications of people coming in with differentiating between a weekend membership and who has a weekend membership and who has a regular pool badge. And also the amount of overcrowding that might happen on weekends. So I agree with most of what Ms. Mancuso said in her memo. And I don't know, was there a huge demand for this? Is that why it's being, because I was a member of the pool when my kids were little and we just had a membership, and if we were, left work early one day or took a day off or whatever, we were able to use the pool. So, yeah, I think it would cut in too much to the revenue and add complications and make the weekends even more crowded. So,
I think it will make the
favor of it.
weekends more crowded, but but the question, the thought of, I think when people tell me the pool is overcrowded on weekends, I probably react the same way as you react when people tell you there's no parking in Maplewood Village, which is, it seems that way. It's a good problem to have also. It seems that way, but if you look at it historically, it's not.
Okay, well, but it could be more of a potential if they could only go on Saturday, Sunday. And is the weekend Friday through Sunday or Saturday?
Saturday and Sunday,
It would
right?
just be Saturdays and Sundays, and it would not include holidays.
So it's really a Saturday, Sunday play. That's what because otherwise I think it gets confused.
Okay, yeah, no, and weekends only, yeah, we'd have to clarify that it's Saturdays and Sundays, although obviously, all of what the pool advisory committee and the recreation director are sending us is their recommendations and their views.
Right.
Ultimately, as the governing body, we can do what we want here.
Yeah.
Last year, we had to put in $79,000 for the deficit of the pool. And I'm very concerned that I understand the market, the analysis here that if, what you said, if one person moves over or three people move over, if we get one person joining on the Saturday, Sunday plan, it's a wash. But I'm concerned, I'm also, one of the strategies this year was we thought we would have so many people across the street with the Avalon Bay. And then I would have maybe felt a little more comfortable with this because maybe that would have been a demographic that would have gone for the Saturday, Sunday plan. I'm a little concerned that we're taking a lot of revenue. I mean, for an individual, instead of paying, that's going to say $54. So if you have three, that's 150. Will you get somebody to come in? I just don't know. I don't know. I'm concerned about losing the dollars when we have such a historic pattern of not making our budget already.
Although to some extent, the not making of the budget is because there's a repayment on the capital.
Right.
And also because the administrative fee that the town charged to the pool for the administrative costs used to be higher, and Mr. Manning and Mr. Gruber, I think, have worked to lower that. So the pool should be getting closer to break even, and to sort of address the issue that you raised and also the Deputy Mayor Adams raised. We part of the reason to do it as a pilot program would be to gauge demand. It's otherwise sort of difficult to know what the demand would be. There certainly is anecdotal demand in the community, and until we try it, we won't necessarily know. But if we don't try it, we'll never know, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing.
I would tend to agree with Mr. Lambrick. I'm also thinking that though with the Avalon Bay being definitely put back, but we do have 1 and 2 bedrooms down the street on Burnett. We have
Before the summer.
So we have that.
If these folks can find parking.
So we still have those coming in, and I am frankly all for doing what we can. And I do understand the difficulty and the concern about the budget and their meeting the budget and being self-sufficient. But I do like the idea of trying to do something with the pool, make it more open to larger demographic than what I often see when I am there when it is crowded. I think anything that we can do would be a step in the right direction. Even as a pilot, to see if we get slammed, then we don't do it again. But I think it's, if we don't at least try.
Yeah, I mean, if in the future, people say, oh, well, you had weekend only, why don't you have that anymore? I think if we're able to say, look, we lost a ton of money and it created all these other difficulties, then that's the reason. But right now, we don't know what the benefits could be. And to me, the benefits outweigh the risks, but.
Yeah, just really quick, I think, this is like real life for me. Pilot programs are very effective in many ways. One is that it gives you actual consumer research data to decide if your decision is right or wrong. Also, incentive programs make a lot of sense too. You can find ways to have incentives outside of customer behavior, which we're kind of talking about here, or resident behavior, saying they are more frequent more the weekends versus the weekdays. A suggestion is that maybe we do the pilot program, but we truncate the time, limited time only. So members have only X amount of weeks or days or whatever is decided to sign up for the weekend program. That way, the sense of urgency brings more revenue in quickly, as an example. Also, if we could find a way to bundle something with programs. I don't know if it's some type of relationship with a merchant in town, a food merchant or something like that, but you bundle it somewhere where it makes sense from a volume perspective, so the ROI is there based on the volume at the expense of the reduced costs.
And one of the proposals that's been kicked around, in various forms for the last couple of years on the Pool Advisory Committee is with membership, with each membership, different categories, including a certain number of complimentary guest passes that, if you sign up for a membership, you get a, whatever it is, 5 guest passes or what have you without, but that further cuts into revenue. So ultimately it's sort of, it hasn't made it to the point of being proposed to this committee, but that's one thing that's been kicked around as sort of an incentive to try to get people to do the membership. And obviously last year, the main reason why we raised the price materially of the guest passes was because there were people who were definitely sort of gaming the system and came in, every day they wanted to over the summer on a guest pass because it added up to being less than the cost of membership. And we've now fixed that, or at least, created less of a disparity there.
Okay, so do you want to make a motion?
Well, one other thing I'd like to take maybe the temperature of is something Mrs. Larrier brought up about, would we have the weekend only, or the 20% discount, would that apply to just the regular membership, or would it also sort of be eligible for early bird? And as I said, I'm open either way.
No, I don't think we want to decrease the revenue even more.
Okay. So the motion I will make is that we keep the fees, the fee schedule from last year, with the exception of eliminating the college student membership category to streamline the categories, but create a weekend-only rate or membership option that would be a 20% discount off of the regular full summer membership price, and that the weekend only applies to just Saturdays and Sundays, does not apply to Fridays or holidays. And that this be a pilot program. Obviously, we set these fees every year, so, in a way, every year it's a pilot program, but this, this would be specifically a promoted as a pilot program for this year to see how it works. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
I can second.
Okay. Any more discussion? Call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier? Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
No.
Passes 4-1.
Okay, so that's going to be an ordinance.
Yes.
Okay.
Do we do an ordinance every year on the pool fees?
Well, what do you want to do? Because it's a pilot. Why don't we do it as a resolution?
Yeah.
Then it'll die.
Yeah, no, and I'm fine with that. I was just asking as a point of clarification, Mr.
Generally, it's an ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay, but if we do it as a resolution, it's not sort of subordinate to a prior ordinance.
No, it'll apply for this year.
Okay, as long as, I just don't want a legal problem of
Understood.
which one prevails.
But because we do all of the fees by ordinance every year, we'll have to do an ordinance for the fees overall, or does this resolution just?
Let me go back and pull the last ordinance and see where it is, okay? And I'll let you know which way it's gonna go. But either way, you have time. Because if the worst that'll happen is if it's an ordinance, it'll be on for the April 4th for final.
Right, although, usually we try to open early bird registration in March.
Okay.
So early bird's not going to be affected, right?
Early birds, although people are going to want to know, is there, because if there's a weekend-only category, we want to have that available from the beginning and not have people signing up for early bird and then come back a month later and say, oh, well, now I want weekend only.
Well, can't we pass some kind of motion right now to allow the rec department to sign up people for the weekend?
Yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes, and I'll memorialize the resolution.
I just think what we just did with 4-1 vote is that we could.
Okay, no, and that can give, Mr. Manning can tell Ms. Mancuso that was the vote, because she's going to be putting together, the materials probably imminently to send out.
Okay. Number 6, boards and committees.
Mayor, before you do
I'm sorry.
that, can I interrupt? And this gentleman who's here has been here all night. This is on the leaf collection. Could we do that? That's resolution 43-17.
I think we would agree to that.
He's been quite patient and, come on up. I'm getting you out of here an hour early.
So is
Oh my God, please tell me we're not going to be here another hour.
is this Mr. Rotundi?
No, this is neither.
Okay.
Why don't you identify yourself?
I'm William Haggerty from Haggerty Farm.
Mr.
I was in between Mazza and Rotundi.
He was the second low bidder, all right? And his bid was rejected on the basis of the fact that he had statutory problems with his bid and didn't comply with the statutory requirements.
I thought that was the guy who was here last time.
No, that was different, okay? Haggerty, upon review of the required documentation listed, Haggerty's Farms failed to provide the following: proof of New Jersey business registration, prevailing wage rates documentation, and proof of public works contract registration. In the resolution, you'll see that it says, whereas additional investigation was performed to determine the qualifications of Mazza Inc. and Haggerty to perform the services, it was determined that Mazza and Haggerty Farm failed to possess the necessary permits and that their bid regularities disqualify them from award of contract.
Have we resolved the issue with respect to Mazza yet? Because Mazza was the winning bidder, right?
Mazza's out, okay? Mazza's out, I'm sorry.
Mazza is out, because as at the last meeting, that wasn't clear.
I sent a letter to both, to Mazza and to all three, including Mr. Haggerty. I assume you got my letter, okay? And this was dated February 24th. I received a letter dated from counsel for Mazza. That was the last time, and then I asked you to carry it to this time. Based upon the information that's been supplied to date, including conversations with the Maplewood Director of Public Works has had with NJDEP, will be my recommendation, meaning me, that the Maplewood Township Committee, that an award of contract be made to S. Rotundi and Son, Inc. for hauling and disposal of leaves for 2017. The recommendation we made at the March 7th meeting. The basis of that recommendation will be the inability of Mazza Mulch to receive 700 cubic yards of leaves as required. As regards the bid of Merrill Haggerty Farms, the bid had statutory non-waivable defects. This matter will be resolved on March 7th. So basically, Mazza because they couldn't take the quantity of leaves, Haggerty because they had non-resolvable statutory defects in their bid.
Okay, and sir, is that what you're here to talk about?
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to get the context of where we were.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I got a fair shake in that because all of this should have came to light on the initial reading of the bid on January the 4th. And the bid did not, the contract whoever got awarded was a month later. And the stuff that I didn't have filled out there, I wasn't sure even applied to me because I'm doing this on a strictly agricultural basis. As far as I knew, I wasn't a contractor or subcontractor for the state of New Jersey. We don't have the farm registered as a business because it's a farm and you just don't really have to do that in the process of running a farm. This was brought to my attention by Calvin Bell mid-February, which I did research that day and everything I could do to fix that. The two things, the prevailing wage and the registering of the business name was a matter of days. And the other thing, registering as a subcontractor, I would have a document in hand in 30 days as per their website. So I felt if I had been awarded the winning bid, I would have had a month to rectify that before the contract was enacted. And when Mazza became excluded, it should be, as my feeling anyway, I should be allowed a month to get this in order and not just say, okay, well, here we found this problem a month and a half after the contract's awarded and sorry, but you didn't do this, so you're out. It just, to me, it doesn't seem like I got a fair shake in the matter.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, so, Mr. Desiderio, you read your letter from February 24th with your recommendation. Is there anything factually or legally that you have learned since then that changes your recommendation?
No, we've gotten nothing, but for me going up to Mr. Haggerty, I didn't know who he was, but I saw somebody who was here who didn't seem to be otherwise involved in it, and I went up to him. But nothing has been submitted to us, no paperwork has been submitted to us, no objection to my letter has been submitted, that we've gotten nothing. So no, there's nothing that's changed my opinion and my recommendation.
There are very strict laws with regard to public bidding and what's required,
Yeah.
correct?
I mean, it is what
I
it
feel
is.
for you, but I don't know that there's anything we can do other than put it back out to bid. But there's no basis for that.
No, we actually can't, we can't put it out for bid. There's no basis for it.
Okay.
In my opinion. Yeah.
So when you have all those things, you'll know for next year to submit them with a bid, I guess.
Fair enough. I just wanted to come say my piece.
Oh,
We
I
appreciate it.
wasn't sure if I had a leg to stand on or not, but
Well, we
I'm new to
appreciate
this.
it.
I was shocked that we even had to do everything I did because I just thought I was taking leaves
Yeah.
to spread on a farm.
It's tough government work, yeah. It's a little more
So
persnickety than that.
I'll
But
do this
yeah.
next year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
All right, thank you, sir.
Take care.
Thank you. Okay, so this is under consent. There's really no reason to deal with it right now. Okay. Let's go back to the boards and committees. Mr. Lambert?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So there's two parts of this. The first is limiting appointments to one board or committee per resident. And that's, by my count, there are 18 volunteer boards and committees to which the Township Committee or the mayor make appointments. And it has been, at least in the year plus that I've been on the Township Committee, it's sort of been our standing policy to only appoint a resident to one board or committee at a time. I would like to formalize that through either a resolution or an ordinance. I think a resolution is probably more appropriate if we can do it that way, and I believe Mr. Desiderio has weighed in that is possible. And I would like for that resolution to be retroactive to the beginning of this year. And to the extent that there is an individual or more than one individual who currently has appointments to more than one committee that was done inadvertently, and that upon passing this resolution, we could then, and Mr. Estero, tell me if I'm mistaken, but we could then rescind the appointment or remove that individual. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's the proposal that I would like to make for a resolution at the next Township Committee meeting, and that's the first part of this discussion item.
Just two things, or just two areas. The Township Committee nor the mayor appoint the Village Alliance Board or the Partnership Board. Those are independent organizations.
So there's no member of those boards. Aren't there members of the public that are on that?
Those are selected
Yes,
by
they're
the boards
selected by-
themselves.
Oh, okay. Well, then we're down to 16.
And then the other is, we have an Emergency Management Committee. We have a citizen member there, so that would be,
Okay.
We're up to 17.
We're up to 17. Okay, so,
But what I'm going to do is a resolution that's going to be a general resolution, and it's not going to list the board specifically.
The two SIDs.
no, you don't have to exempt them, you could list them. I think we should list them because that's what we have.
Okay.
yeah, so, so Mr. Osorio, it would be the list of 18 that I sent minus the two SIDs plus the emergency management?
Yeah.
So, so we'd take my list of 18 and make it a list of 17.
Gotcha.
With those changes. So do we want to finish discussing that before I go to my other
Yeah.
item?
Yeah, I just have a question about so if there's a resident on one of the SID boards, does that disqualify them from serving on another board?
No.
It wouldn't because they're not appointed by the township committee.
Okay.
The
And the
same as the
purpose,
person was on the CCR board or the YouthNet board that got public funding.
all right, and so the purpose of this is to allow more residents to be involved in volunteering for the community.
Yes, the purpose is to maximize the opportunity for as many residents as possible to volunteer and not have the same group of usual suspects sort of populating
All the committees.
all the committees. And that's, and some of this is also with the goal of making the committees more diverse, which is something that we've all committed to. I actually, Mr. McGee wasn't on the Township Committee last year when we voted on the Sustainable Jersey resolution, but, to commit to greater diversity on our appointments. But I know it's something that Mr. McGee supports, so.
Yes.
I think we're all on the same page in that, and I think that this furthers that goal. So do I?
Go to the next.
Okay, so that'll be a resolution for the next meeting, but.
It will.
Okay. The second part is we had discussed a few months back that there's a considerable amount of inconsistency within these boards and committees about how the chair or vice chair is to be selected or appointed. And what I have done and what I have distributed to all of you as well as to Mr. Desiderio are some proposed amendments to ordinances to make more consistent and standardize the way that we tell the boards and committees that that it gets the township committee out of the game of appointing chairs and vice chairs to these boards and committees. It allows the committees to select from among the people we've appointed their own chairs and vice chairs, and it specifies that they should do that on an annual basis. And I would certainly be open to the idea that maybe some should be every 2 years, but I think given that we have people whose terms are expiring every year, so in theory, at least, membership might change every year. I think doing it annually, and there's also a good hygiene element of that, because we do have some committees that I know where the same person, even if they've done a remarkable job, has been doing the job of chair without any sort of election for several consecutive years. And this isn't to say that there's going to be term limits or that we have to turn things over, but just that we include in our ordinances and make it clear to the committees what they should be doing and how they should do it. And I think everyone's reviewed that, and Mr. Acero, I think that would probably require amendments to several ordinances. So that would need to come before first reading and then second reading to amend. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I sent those around, and Mr. Acero, did you have any questions or concerns about the changes that I was proposing?
I have to look at it again.
Okay. Okay, but I'll work that out with Mr. Acero if there aren't even. Did anyone else have questions, comments, concerns?
No.
Okay. Is this just a war of attrition? I've worn you down.
No. Actually, just at the Arts Council last night, we actually did a vote because it hadn't been, happening. So we did a vote of who the chair was. So good practice to do.
Outstanding. Okay.
Same person, but.
7.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Just want to give you a quick Finance Committee report, and there's a recommendation. And also, we had this question about deposits in Wells Fargo. We do not deposit in Wells Fargo. We don't use Wells Fargo as a bank. Our money's in Valley National and BCB. The budget is on track to have a 2% tax increase on the municipal tax for the average taxpayer. So we're working on that. We're going to introduce this at the next meeting. And maybe to do a little more fine tuning. I know Mrs. Larry wanted to raise the $4,000 for this, $4,200 for the spaying. Is that What is it? What did you
For
speak?
the, we were given a proposal by people for animals on behalf of our TNVR that they would do that.
They would do
They
what?
would collect the animals, trap, neuter, vaccinate, and release them back. And that proposal,
Is this
about a year
a,
ago.
is this a incorporated group or?
Legal for animals, yes.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure that they have status because you can't just give it to anybody. So,
Oh, yes, no, they, in fact, they are, I believe, helping South Orange with their
okay.
trap, neuter.
And that's how much?
$4,200 was, now that was a year ago. I can ask that she maintain that.
Is this
But
because?
that would help us to have someone step in the void where Furry Hearts was unable to.
Just tell me their name again.
Oh, people.
We still have, yes, so it'll be introduced. It won't be the final budget because we'll have still some personnel issues, et cetera, to get. But the place where we are is the place we're going to be when we finally, meaning the 2%.
All right. No question? Oh, okay. So I wanted to just share with everyone that we had a Moody's Investor Service comment that Maplewood Township has a very high-quality credit position, and its AA2 rating is slightly above the U.S. city median of AA3. And the rating reflects an exceptionally strong socioeconomic profile with a sizable tax base and a healthy financial position. And it talks about our affordable debt burden with a somewhat inflated pension liability. And it says the financial position of the township is healthy and consistent with a AA2 rating, and that balanced financial operations are a sign of good financial management. In this instance, Maplewood Township approximately broke even as the tax base grew moderately. So it was a good note for us. And lastly, we discussed the sewer fee. The sewer fee now is $184, yes.
Mine's way higher now.
$184. We are recommending a $10 surcharge in 2017 to cover deferred capital costs, specifically $108,000. We've received a $58,419 bill from the joint meeting for it's called inflow and infiltration. This is water getting into the sanitary sewer, and this is a 6-year charge. This goes back 6 years. And so that's the majority of the bill, and the rest of it is to do work with sewer covers, about 25 sewer covers over the next couple of years that will reduce the inflow so that we will not have these recurring bills from the joint meeting. So the $10 surcharge will raise roughly about $100,000, little under about 95 or so, 93,000. So that will be, that's what we're recommending to the Township Committee, that this would be a 1-year $10 surcharge
Didn't we have a
for deferred
1 year
capital.
last year?
We didn't have it
I
last
think
year,
it
it
was
was 2 years ago. We had a legal suit that we had to settle for the Passaic River pollution case.
This would help with the deferred maintenance that needs to be addressed.
Right. Yeah, it's a deferred maintenance capital cost of $10 surcharge. So that's the recommendation. And I would move that.
Second that.
Any discussion?
Don't want to see it every year.
That's why we're doing it this year.
I know, but I feel like it happened last year too.
It Didn't happen
Didn't
last
happen
year.
last year, happened the year before.
Yeah.
But I wasn't on.
Well, okay, call the roll.
Ms. Adams? Mrs. Larrier? Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
So that is an ordinance. How do you want the ordinance? You want it to be 194, or do you want it to say 184 plus a $10 surcharge?
The latter, but I thought we did it by resolution.
I don't think so.
Check because I think,
I think that the auditors.
oh, the order said we just do it by
issue-
ordinance, that's right, okay. Yeah, so it's a 184 plus $10 surcharge for 2017.
Okay.
Okay, that's it with the Finance Committee. Next up is Sustainable Jersey. We've, have an opportunity to join with Sustainable Jersey and other towns, 4 other towns, to participate in a solar program. This would give, Sustainable Jersey would provide hands-on technical assistance to the 5 towns and to do our Solar Smart, become a Solar Smart community. And this has to do with zoning ordinances, permitting, inspection process, and also promoting solar to the community businesses and residents.
How much is this going to cost us?
This has cost us nothing. We get stuff for this.
I'm for it.
Right.
So-
program.
How will this interact with the other program that we're in?
This supports it. This is, supports the
solar challenge.
Solar challenge.
Yep.
And it actually would give us assistance to do that better.
Do it a hands up.
So are we okay supporting this?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do a motion so that we have it, a motion to participate in Sustainable Jersey application for to the Solar Foundation.
So moved.
Moved, very good. That was the second was before the first. Call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Next up, we have a proposal from Greigo to do the amendment to the redevelopment plan. This is the affordable assisted living that we talked about. We were informed on Monday, I think it was, that the contract has been signed by the developers and the bank. So we are set to start moving the process.
Wait, what?
The contract was signed by the developers with the bank to acquire the property. And we have to move the process now because the uses that we've been talking to them about
Yeah.
are not currently permitted. So this hires the consultant to do that. Because of the public.
You need a motion for that?
We need a motion to hire them.
I move that.
Second.
Joe.
Okay, just the question is, this has like 6 public meetings. I don't think we will need 6 public meetings for that.
No, yeah.
This is 2 meetings with the planning board, 1 meeting with the township committee, and 2 meetings with economic development, so 5. I don't think we need to do all that, so.
Is it just me, or does this not happen with every other amendment to any other redevelopment? We don't have all these public meetings, it's just changing the redevelopment area.
Yeah, it's just changing it. We usually have them, not public hearings, his public appearance.
Hey, sir, questions?
Yeah, I know, but,
Yeah, we decide whether he
Spend-
comes,
okay,
and then he just charges us by the hour.
okay, so that's
Yeah.
my point.
Yes.
I don't want to be spending like $6,000 on him.
No.
We're not committing to actually using it.
Right.
Okay. That was.
Okay, so we moved in second, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
No, wait a second.
What is it removing? So we're to contract to him to not to exceed what?
Or whatever he put here.
Well, he put
Well, you
six-
put
he
4,500 to 6,000.
Right, and I just need to know what to put in the resolution.
Not to exceed 6,000.
6,000.
We're looking towards
Okay.
4,500.
Just want to make sure.
No, we're looking to way less than
Wait,
4,500. Seriously, it's like, it's.
And we have to go back to him and ask him what the
The hourly.
We're gonna do it right now.
then the maximum would.
So we just put $4,500, and we'll just keep him to that.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but I just don't think it's a ton of work to be requiring him at like 5, 6 meetings. It's crazy.
Well, then if we
We'll tell him
don't
that.
invite him, we're not paying him if he shows up.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Manning, parking lot number 11.
I do have to follow-
Oh, that's right.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca.
Yes. Parking lot number 11, Mr. Manning.
So parking lot number 11 is the one on Springfield Avenue, which is south of Tuscan and over
Yale, corner of Yale and Springfield Avenue, right?
Yes.
Well, it's not really at the corner. It's in the middle of the block. Yes. And it goes to our other parking lot. It's a lot that we lease. And we, in order to get the cars out of there and to establish some sort of, it's Wild West over there, and there are people dumping cars and everything. So I'd like to suggest that we make it like the other Springfield Avenue Lot 6 and 7 and 8, which are 3-hour parking, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., all except Sunday. So in other words, on Sunday you could park later, but everything by 9 a.m. by 9 p.m. they have to be out of there. So this way we'll be able to, if we get an ordinance, we can put that up, we can notify people we're going to be doing this, and start to get ready to have the farmers market come. We brought the farmers in, they're agreeable, we have to do some advertising and stuff, but we need to move on that. So would that be something that the Township Committee can approve?
So the question is, do we allow 3-hour parking, 9 a.m. to what?
To 7 p.m.
Right, and then after that, they can park there till 2 a.m.
Right.
Okay.
That's true. They can park till 2 a.m. Right. Like
So
any of our other lots.
So it'd be the same as that, from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., 3-hour parking, consistent with all the other Springfield lots.
Yes.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yes. So, Mr. Desiderio, you draft that? Okay.
Getting a lot of homework.
Okay, can we get a motion on the consent agenda?
I'd like to move adoption of the consent agenda in full.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Go ahead, call the roll, I'm sorry.
Mrs. Adams?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier? Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca.
Yes, thank you. Public comment, anyone want to, no one's here, so we'll pass. We received chief financial issuance of bond anticipation note. Administrative reports, Mr. Manning.
No report.
Mr. Desiderio.
I have no report, Mayor.
Ms. Fritzen.
I have 7 items, Mayor. No report.
Okay. Elected officials, Mrs. Larrier.
Report, sir.
Ms. Adams.
Just one item, Mayor. There's engineering committee discussed a mid-block crosswalk on Boyden Avenue from sort of the middle of the pool parking lot to across to the NJ Transit.
NJ Transit.
NJ Transit
It's the old days.
place. Because a lot of people cross there, and we want to put some controls on that. This would just be striping right now, no other controls there, right?
Yes.
It's not
And it's,
anything automated, yeah.
A sign, it's the pedestrian
Signage, yeah, just
crossing sign.
signage and striping. So, is everybody okay with that?
Well, it has to be a resolution, so we're just alerting people that that's going to be coming on. It has to be an official resolution.
So is everybody okay with that? Does anybody have any questions of me? Before I go home and go to bed? Go put my sick body to sleep.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it?
That means everybody's okay. with
Mr. Lambert.
Yes, I wrote a lengthy address, but I left it in Tampa, so no report.
Mr. McGee.
Very, very quick. The Community Coalition on Race is having a coffee house discussion tomorrow evening at 7:30 at the Congregation Bethel. That's in Irvington, in South Orange at 222 Irvington Avenue. You can check twotowns.org. The Library Certain Ideas Festival, and on March 18th, I recommend everybody come out to hear Mr. Kahil Muhammad and Angie Thomas. They'll discuss the book Hate to Give. That's at the Woodland at 2 p.m. on March 18th. The Green Team is celebrating 10 years this Thursday, 7 p.m. at the Woodland. Assemblyman John McKean will be there. It's a party with a purpose, so I recommend everybody come out to that. And I'll cut it short. That's my report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, quick 4 items. Kathy Rowe is the new coordinator for SOMA, 2 Towns for All Ages. Kathy's a resident in Maplewood, and she'll be working on the initiative with South Orange and Maplewood. The Township Committee has talked to the Township Committee on Saturday, March 18th at 9 a.m. at the DPW lot. And then after that, we can go to the Ideas Festival. My office hours are next Tuesday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. here at Town Hall. And next Tuesday also, the 14th, at 7:30, the library is having an open meeting to talk about the plans for the future of the library. So we're really looking for the public to participate, come with ideas, suggestions on what you'd like to see. And just in light of that, I want to thank the Township Committee for the special meeting we had March 2nd. It was really helpful for the planning group and the architects to meet with us and just talk about it. So thank you. With that, can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.